Risky behavior.
The views and opinions expressed on this channel are solely those of the host and guest and are intended for entertainment and discussion purposes only. This channel does not promote bias, hatred, or discrimination of any kind. All questions posed and thoughts shared are part of a critical thinking exercise and are not meant to offend or judge any individual or group. We encourage respectful dialogue and love for all. Please remember to think critically and engage thoughtfully. We aim to foster a positive and inclusive community where everyone feels welcome. Thank you for being a part of Risky Behavior ENT.
Risky behavior.
Yo. What's up? How y'all doing? Welcome back. This is Risky Behavior ENT. I am your host, Mr. Diabolical himself, also known as Beware the Messenger. Of course, I'm just coming in with a quick live today. I am back on Jubilee, and I'm about to tune into another Royal Rumble. I know a lot of people don't like this person, but one of my favorite people to see debate is Candace Owens, and so Jubilee did this video where it's Candace Owens versus 20 feminists. And I thought it was absolutely hilarious. I loved it. Very, very, very interesting video. So yeah, let's just go ahead and jump into it. If for anybody that likes to watch these type of things like I do, Jubilee is a great platform. You just go on Jubilee, subscribe, and and you can catch these conversations and watch them on your own if that's what you want to do. I don't listen to much music, but when I'm like riding around, sitting in traffic, I will find different debates and topics that people are discussing, and I will listen to that, on the way to work. Anywho, welcome. Thank you for all those that support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it all. Thumbs up the video. And so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get into this video.
Stay at home when you pull them. They just want flexible working hours and flexible working conditions like you have. And I think we should all advocate for that. It's not one or the other. But when you sit here and you go, you'll be more fulfilled doing this, then spend all your time doing that. We would love for you to leave the public eye and go focus on what makes you fulfilled.
Okay. Hi, my name is Candace Owens. I am a podcaster, a mother, a wife, and also the author of the upcoming book, Make Him a Sandwich. And today I am surrounded by 20 feminists. My first claim is that the sexual revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely.
Yo, I gotta pause for a minute. What up, bro?
Man, what to do? Bro, you read my mind. I actually saved that video to my to a playlist to watch later on, bro. You read my mind.
You know what? I was still waiting for you for the other one, and so therefore it I didn't play it because as I'm waiting on Prince, man. So I just started with the Candace Owens.
Oh, bet. How's your fort, bro?
Man, it was good, man. Happy 4th to you. I forgot to say happy 4th to the viewers as well, man.
Happy 4th, people. Late.
Yeah. Did you set off any fireworks?
Man, no, bro. I think the fireworks that I bought a few years back was illegal or something because I can't find them cocksuckers no more. Like a few of them joints I popped, bro. I was setting off call alarms in the neighborhood, bro. I could not find them things no more, but them suckers went off like bombs or something.
You know what? I didn't get to buy none. I was in a rush, and so I mooched off other people's fireworks. So I walked my kids down the street, and we went and enjoyed somebody else's hard-earned money. So
Oh man, that's the best way to be.
that, that's what I did, man.
That's the best way to be these days, bro. Saving money, kids have fun, man. Look, that sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Hey, thank y'all for coming and tuning in. Feel free to thumbs up the video. I don't ask for no money or to tap into nobody's pockets, but the like button is free. If you could tap that for me, it'd be most appreciated. This debate starts off. So basically, when they do these debates, is 1v20. The main speaker or person that everyone is going against, they have a list of claims, and the people will set a timer, and the people will come up to debate that claim. So Candace's first claim is the sexual revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely less happy.
Look, before you press play, bro, what you think about that?
I think it has devalued women. Some of the things that I think about, being a true crime lover, right? And I love all true crime, and I love listening to like the old stories of crime. And so they had a young lady, and she there was a man that was interested in her, and he went to the family to tell them that, ask for her hand in marriage, saying that he wanted to marry her and everything. She was a virgin. Now, before the wedding, the man took her out of town to a hotel room. While they was at the hotel room, now he took her there under the guise of, hey, we're going to take a little vacation before we get married, right? So he takes her to this hotel room, and while they're there, he is trying to convince her to have sex, to which she says, no, we can wait till the wedding day. He tells her one day when he gets upset, he says, well, look, if you're going to be like this, then maybe we don't need to get married. So she ends up having sex with him, right? Next day, after having sex, he's gone. He's in the wind. She goes home humiliated, having had sex with this guy after disappearing, after he disappeared on her after having sex. Her sister says, come on, girl, we gonna find him. They go looking for the guy. He's at some place where they playing cards or some crap like that, right? The sister walks in there and tells him, like, hey, what's wrong with you? You're supposed to marry my sister. You done had sex with her, blah, 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 blah. Unbeknownst to her, the young lady who was supposed to be getting married had brought a gun with her. While her sister is talking to the guy that would be her husband, she walks up to him, shoots him in the head, kills him in front of everybody.
Damn.
When they go to court, she's able to beat her charges. Why? Because he took her virtue. And there's other cases like that. I think that women were held in a higher regard. They were not seen a certain way. Even when you look at women not being suspected of crimes such as murder, a lot of times they got away with it because women were seen in a more positive light. And I think things like the sexual revolution has painted a negative picture over them.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, I can agree with everything you said, honestly. I feel like
my bad, Z Lion Underground. You're right. I didn't mean to put conservatives. I'll have to change that later. I meant to put feminists. You're absolutely correct. I wasn't trying to clickbait. I meant to put Candace Owens versus 20 feminists. I don't know why I typed conservatives. I was rushing trying to get set up. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't mean to put that.
It's crazy. I didn't even notice the title, if I'm being perfect.
I messed up.
I saw Candace Owens' face, and I was like, damn, he doing it.
Yeah, I messed up. And I might have even said Candace Owens versus, 20 conservative. I meant to say feminist, but, it's live. I can't fix it now. So,
yep. When you're live, everything gets jacked up. Can't fix it. Gotta wait till the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with everything you said. Honestly, it goes, whether it's crime or even if you look at the even if you look at the workforce, a prime example of that, you can look at the WNBA, whereas they're being taken care of and funded by the regular NBA, but they want raises and not filling up arenas. You're not really putting that work in to, get to the level of somebody in the WNBA getting that LeBron James check. But they crying for absolutely no reason, as if that's not understood.
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
mean, I understood it from day one. I understood it the moment that became a point of contention. Like, I mean, you can't expect raises when y'all not selling tickets and when the parent company is the ones that's even paying you to begin with. Like, you can't do that.
Let me see. Yeah, I don't think they understand it. They made it more about how do I say this? They made it more about it's that whole new culture where it's like everybody deserves a trophy, basically. It's not
Oh
about
God, I hate that.
winning, losing, or anything actual, like factual. It's not about numbers or anything like that. I mean, I guess they don't realize that the money got to come from somewhere.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And for the life of me, I can't get that. Like, I was upset um going to my son's soccer game while I dig in my bag and get my charger out of here. I got bad going to my son's soccer game at the end of their season, and now mind just my son. Everybody on the team got a trophy, and I'm looking around. I'm looking at my wife like, whispering in her ear like, they lost though. Like, why, why, why are we giving trophies to? I mean, I don't want to call my son a loser, but like, why are we giving trophies to the losing team? Like for the life of me, I didn't understand it.
Because everybody's a winner now. There's no accountability, there's no working hard for anything, there's no feeling of achievement anymore because you just everybody gets it.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but when we were kids, I mean, me and you were in the same age bracket. When we were kids, when we went from elementary school to middle school to high school, you just, you know, swapped schools. I mean, you were lucky if you got a moving up ceremony, but for the most part, you kind of just take a picture with, all those fifth graders or all the eighth graders, and you just move up to the next school, to the next grade. Now people are going around calling um pre-K kids or kindergarten kids, they calling it a graduation when they're going up to the
Oh
first
yeah.
grade.
Yeah,
Or they
everybody got
calling it,
graduation.
yeah, they calling it a graduation when they move up from the fifth grade to the sixth grade and from the eighth grade to the ninth grade. Like, no, it's not a graduation.
Yeah.
You don't graduate until you're in the 12th grade, period. Like, that's when you graduate. You don't graduate until you're in college. That's when you graduate. These are glorified moving up ceremonies because everybody gets a participation trophy.
I know. Let me see if I can do this. Oh, I can't change it. I did. I had destiny. I changed it. Let me do it so you can see me. I changed it. I made a mistake.
Now you gotta put your hands by your ears and wave your hands from side to side, and there you go. There you go.
Shout out to Destiny though, man. I appreciate you coming back and coming through. Let's go ahead and jump into this video. But I guess I can change it. Hopefully I changed it. I changed it at the top for my thing, but for me, maybe they can't see it. I don't know. But it's
Now they'll
still
have to
down
leave
there in the
out and
blue.
come back. They'll have to leave out and come back in, and it'll update.
Oh, okay. Anyway. All right, claim one. Here we go.
Less happy. Sexual revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely less happy. Hello.
They about to knock each other over.
Hi.
Hi, I'm
your name?
Samaya.
Samaya, nice to meet you. I'm Candace.
Nice to meet you too. So my question for you is, statistics show that 60% of women who are murdered by their intimate partners, murdered by.
All right, they started off with a sand fact check. This is another thing they do that I love when they're debating, where they do a sand fact check from Straight Arrow News, which I did download the app. So if y'all want an app where y'all get the news at, they're supposed to be non-biased, right? So it says here, the UN statistics show that 60% of murdered women were killed by their intimate partner or a family member.
By someone that they are in close relations with. That's according to the UN from 2023.
Yeah.
So how is it that, women are so valued, quote unquote, in the home, and yet that's the place where they're at the most danger?
Okay, so I'm not sure what that has to do with the sexual revolution.
Right, the sexual revolution.
first claim.
The sexual revolution gave.
I'm happy to
women-
answer it. I'm just saying that, if you brought in that statistic, you
Sure.
are more likely in general just to be murdered by somebody you know. So of course,
But men are much less likely to be murdered by, their
that's
intimate
not
partners.
true.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
Yeah, I'm sure, because men are less likely to be murdered by women. Full stop.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that statistic makes sense to me. I'm still not sure how this correlates to whether or not
The sexual revolution increased women's ability to leave the house, women's ability to control their own reproductive capabilities, women's ability to, control their own capacity within the workforce in regards to their own sexual capacity. So it is the very fact that the sexual revolution happened that made our access to the workplace much more, or just the public sphere in general, much more easy. So without the sexual revolution, women would be much more confined to the place where they're at the most danger. Isn't that true?
So you think that, just so I'm trying to understand your argument here, you think that if we didn't have the sexual revolution, less women or more women would be murdered? Are you saying that women are
more women would be murdered for sure?
Okay, I disagree with that. I still don't think it has anything to do with the claim that women are infinitely less happy because of the sexual revolution, which has devalued
I think
women.
you'd probably be less happy if you're being murdered.
Oh.
Anyone disagree?
Okay, yeah, I don't, okay. Okay. There is definitely a correlation between personal relationships and domestic violence. And just to be clear, if we're talking about just a monogamous relationships, the most violent relationships that are on the books are between lesbian partners. Yes, when people are intimate.
That's not a
You muted, bro.
Oh crap, I'm muted. I keep doing that stupid crap. This is another sand fact check, right? They put up these fact checks while they're debating. It says a survey from 2013 shows 61% of bisexual women and 44% of lesbian women reported intimate partner violence, IPV, compared to 35% of straight women, according to Stand for Families Free of Violence. I appreciate you, Prince. I don't know why I do that mute stuff. And what's interesting about domestic violence anyway, when it comes to men and women, I think for the women it says it's 35%. The man, I think, is 29%. So it's very even close when you get into the domestic violence numbers.
That is actually true.
No, the statistic you're talking about is people who have faced domestic violence. Lesbians, yes, are more likely to have faced domestic violence, but that's because they typically came from relationships with men in which they were mistreated.
Lesbian relationships are the most violent relationships that we have on the books.
But we can move on.
They can fact check that claim. The point being is that it's not exactly a stunning statistic to say that when people are in relationships, period, whether those relationships are homosexual, whether they're
married, you're saying that the sexual revolution.
Let me finish. I've let you try to explain how this is correlated to happiness, and I don't think it does. I actually think you're having a different debate right now. But yes, absolutely. It makes perfect sense that you are more likely in general when you are in a relationship, because people are driven by anger by people that they know, whether or not we're talking about boyfriend and girlfriend, a husband and a wife, a husband and a husband, or a wife and a wife. Yes, of course, the instances of domestic violence are going to take place when you're inside of a home. But the sexual revolution, encouraging women to give up their goods for free, which is what I'm speaking about, and encouraging men not to marry these women or to have long-term relationships, what I am saying is a direct contributor to their unhappiness, because women are giving up their goods for free and women are now entering the workplace, and that does not actually make them happy.
Okay, pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Hello.
Hi there.
How are you? I'm Candace.
Nice to meet you. Julian, my pronouns are they, them. It's very interesting to think of it when we just think about the gender binary. It's, how do we place value on human beings in general? And so when we think about,
I think that's the new issue with society, is that why would Candace be talking to this person and address them with a pronoun? Like, you got to introduce yourself like, hi, my name is so-and-so and my pronoun. See how they force that on you?
I don't even take people seriously when they start off with that.
Place of power, right?
What did you say? You don't take them seriously?
Yeah, I don't take them seriously when they start off like that, because I'm not even about to. I'm not about to address you as a pronoun. I'm gonna address you by your name. Isn't that why we all have one? A name?
Exactly. TBBGG says the oppressed entitled generation. Candace will have them in tears. MAGA UK.
Say, bro, she kind of destroyed the chick that got voted out just now. Candace kind of shut her up.
She didn't answer the question at all. She went down whatever road it was that she saw that she wanted to go down. That's exactly what she did.
Yep.
Joe Simone says she's assuming. Oh my God.
Right? So I think let's select like the Victorian era. You have this dominant group of people coming from white supremacy, deciding who gets to have a proper status in the world. And so that is already like taking human beings and devaluing them. And so what the sexual revolution did was to help people seek out empowerment, which increased value no matter the gender. So when it comes to sexual revolution, let's look at one contribution is sex education. I'm actually an educator. I teach sociology and LGBTQ studies. And I have absolutely seen the positive outcome with the sexual revolution and sex education, and seen people empower themselves. And with that comes safety when it comes to decreasing STIs, abuse, sexual assault. Again, people get to empower themselves of all genders. And I know earlier you mentioned about violence amongst lesbians and sapphic community, which I do identify within. All genders can be subjected to violence.
That was the point I was making. So I wasn't sure of how her claim was relating to what we were talking about, whether or not it makes people happy or unhappy. Relationships are obviously a ground where there can be violence.
I guess I could just wrap it up by saying, like, if we all have access to like sex education through the incredible work of feminists through the sexual revolution, we are able to gain access to information and gain skills to create an equitable society, egalitarian within our relationships, whether it be platonic or romantic. I'm so grateful for those feminists who have fought for us so we can gain those spaces and create a healthier society.
Okay, are you a believer in the government doing everything that it can to make people happy?
So when it comes, as someone that teaches in the public sector, I understand the concern when it comes to like, what is a teacher, what kind of information they're providing to the students. I do believe that we, as a teacher, I should be able to give that sort of information. Again, I teach college students. One of my claims is I believe that we should mandate sex education amongst college students. So yes, I do want the state, I would like the government to give us those resources so we can implement that curriculum.
Okay. Are you consider yourself a feminist, I'm assuming?
A queer feminist. There's variations, right?
What is a queer feminist as opposed to a feminist, just so I understand?
Well, so I heavily believe in queer theory. So, the gender binary that we understand, it comes from colonization. What the hell is a queer theory? So someone who is mixed race, family from Mexico.
You said, what is queer theory?
Yeah, what the hell is a queer theory? And I thought men as far as the LGBT, ABCD, I thought the queer was referring to the men. How are women queer? See, this junk is confusing. This is very confusing.
Yeah. Queen has a point. Candace should have started off with defining what she means by sexual revolution. I think it would have flowed better. I know somebody else mentioned in the comments that they're kind of just going off with their feelings or what they are hearing when they hear the sexual revolution. You know, let me see. Queer theory. All right, so I'm gonna read it. It says queer theory is an academic field and critical perspective that emerged in the early 1990s. It challenges and deconstructs fixed categories of gender and sexuality, questioning the idea that these identities are natural, stable, or binary. At its core, queer theory critiques normative ideas about heterosexuality, gender roles, and identity categories like male, female, or gay, straight. It emphasizes fluidity in sexual orientation and gender identity, highlighting how they can change over time and across cultures. Interrogates power structures, showing how norms around sexuality and gender are enforced by social, political, and cultural systems. Draws from post-structuralism, feminism, and LGBTQ plus activism, with key figures like Judith Butler, Eve Kosofsky, and Michelle Foucault influencing its development. In short, queer theory is about resisting rigid labels, exposing how social norms shape desire and identity, and advocating for more inclusive, flexible understandings of human sexuality and gender.
That entire definition and overview is diabolical as hell. Because when I was a kid in the 90s, queer was a slur. Queer was referred to somebody of whom was gay. That's how I remember it.
Yeah, I think queer just means weird, honestly, is the definition of the word. And it was always a slur, but they have taken it back. And, and some of them use it. They're okay with using it, and that's how they identify.
That's wild.
I don't know. Let me see. Ricky says define queer. Let's see. I thought it just meant weird, right? Let's see. Queer is a term with multiple meanings shaped by history, culture, and context. Originally, queer meant strange, odd, or peculiar.
Okay,
As
weird.
a slur, it was historically used to insult people who didn't conform to heterosexual or cisgender norms.
I was right too, gay.
Yeah. It says reclaimed identity. Today, many LGBTQ plus people use queer proudly as an umbrella term to describe sexual and gender identities that are non-normative, normative, such as gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, asexual, transgender, non-binary, and others.
That's crazy how they need all these words just to say they're gay. Like every single letter in LGBTQ literally just means gay.
I guess they want to create different sexualities and labels to express their existence. I guess I don't know. I don't get it. I guess but what throws me off is to say, like, if this is to go against the societal norm, if you recognize there is a societal norm that most people do, I don't know why you would try to tear that down. I'm not going to assume what people are trying to do. I think most people just want to kind of carve out their own space for their existence. But I don't understand when you have some people that want to tear down the societal norms. If that's what the most of us is doing, it's like, nah, you go over there, do your thing over there.
I mean, yeah, that's how it should be. You know? I mean, we spoke before about about the cross-dressing reading hour. I mean, do your cross-dressing and stuff over there. You don't need to come read a book to the kids and nothing like that, and have children questioning why you're a man in a dress. Just go on, do your stuff over there, and continue to be happy.
Yeah, man. I think she came into this debate with her own agenda. Honestly, I'm not even gonna try to make sense of what she said. She came in here to push her own narrative and her own agenda, and I get it. She got to represent. Throw her flag up.
And I could be wrong, but wasn't she on the one with the last 20v1? I could be wrong.
You have people that come in here that often. You're gonna see a couple of people that you've seen before in other ones. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you've seen her already.
Okay.
It's a couple of people that repeatedly come on the show, and you'll recognize them.
Okay.
All
right. We have the Moshes in Mexico, which is an indigenous tribe. They believed in gender fluidity. And then you have European colonizers coming who dismantle that. And now everything that we understand when it comes to gender is a Western lens. So from a queer...
So you don't even think women exist, I'm guessing.
I think everyone should be empowered to figure out their identity and explore the language that best describes themselves. So freedom, America, right? America, freedom. And I want to believe in that when it comes to identity. Right. Everyone should have the freedom to decide how they want to identify, as long as they're not causing harm. But that's where we get into the debate. What is harm?
So just...
Yeah. No, Sue. What I'm saying is there is a topic and there is a claim that says the sexual revolution devalued women and made them infinitely less happy. I don't understand why she's just honed in on her queer and pushing her. It's kind of like answer the question. I get what she's saying. I just don't understand how it ties in if you're coming up there to debate somebody on the claim or the point that they're making. That's the part I don't understand how it knocks down Candace's argument. But I did agree with somebody earlier when they said maybe Candace, it should be more so like when I watched oh my God, who was that? Who's that other guy we did? Whenever I don't think it was Jordan Peterson, but whenever somebody would sit down to debate him, before they would get to talking, he would establish the definitions. Hey, let's agree to these terms so we can have a debate that makes sense. And Candace is not doing that. And so they're kind of just running off with their own ideas and feelings. And so nothing is making sense.
Again, to be clear, to go back to this claim, we are debating female happiness. Mm-hmm. You are saying you do not identify as a female.
I identify with all gender expressions. So from masculinity to femininity. So
I'm just saying, are you just saying that as a part of queer theory, you're debating whether or not women are happier after the sexual revolution? I'm just trying to understand, because it seems like you're debating queer theory as opposed to female.
I believe all genders benefit from the sexual revolution.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Vote her behind out.
They voted her out solely because she was like, she said she could fall to masculinity and femininity.
Zena, very much like your name.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Like this young lady right here, Zena, she's always on the show.
Can we start with
okay? Yeah, I've seen that before.
Do you identify as a female?
I identify as a woman. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I do want to get back to your premise. You're saying that women have been devalued, right, by the sexual revolution. This kind of presumes two things. One, that there has been a loss of worth, right, for women. So you're saying that women have, as human beings, lost worth. Women who, prior to their sexual revolution, were worth more than women today.
I would say that, yes, women have devalued themselves by becoming overtly sexual. That's my claim. So, I mean, also according to and let's not remove this from the other part of the claim, which it has made women infinitely less happy.
Right. So are you saying, but you're saying that according to you, women have been devalued?
Not according to me. according to the time in which people are getting married, how difficult it is for people to find a partner that's willing to commit to them. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that women are offering sex for free, because it was a major component of the sexual revolution was this idea.
So a woman's worth is tied to her sexuality.
It's not tied to, well, absolutely. If you're going to be having multiple partners, you are going to be devaluing yourself.
You're worth less as a human being.
Not as a human being, just, in terms of trying to have a partnership and a productive relationship. Certainly men are not going to be clamoring to have a relationship with somebody when there's the market is growing them.
A man's response to your actions is what defines your worth, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say that I would argue that what makes women actually happy is family. So if you're interrupting, so just to connect the dots for you, when women are having sex with multiple partners, it devalues them for men, right?
For men. So
yes. So
men define a woman's worth.
Well, I would say both of them kind of define one another's worth, because I think the ultimate goal for people to be happy is actually family.
Okay. Yeah. So you're saying in all cases, a woman is going to be more fulfilled in regards to family.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And this is going to work in all cases. So you're saying there's no individual case in which a woman can feel, fulfilled without being tied to other people. In the case of family.
I think there could be an exceptional case for everything. I think there are exceptional cases, but I think that if we all start trying to be the exception as opposed to recognizing the rule, which is that people in life are more fulfilled when they achieve a family unit and when they have children, women in particular, especially have.
All right, we got another SAN fact check. Make sure I ain't on mute like I be doing sometimes. It says here, there's conflicting research on this topic. The Pew Research, shout out to Pew Research. If anybody be looking for like research and stats and stuff like that, I use Pew Research. Pew Research found that a higher percentage of adults want a career or close friends to be fulfilled compared to kids or marriage. Okay. While the Institute of Family Studies found married men and women are happier than their unmarried counterparts, largely because they have a family support system. And I can agree with that, but I do think we live in a time where people are redefining exactly what a family support system looks like.
Yeah, that's definitely being redefined.
Yeah. And this girl, Zena, she's doing a great job with talking to Candace. She had her tied up a little bit with the whole. So you're saying a woman's value comes from a man, right? So she was doing a good job.
Hiring the children, then you are going to end up with a bunch of people who are unhappy because your job cannot replace the feeling of having a family.
So what you're saying is we need to look at every individual case and see what is going to fulfill you or what is going to, I guess, essentially predict your happiness more. Because if we look at, for example, the Nordic countries, right? These are countries, I'm talking about like Sweden, Denmark, right? These countries tend to be like, I think in the past 14 years, they've been ranked as the highest in happiness and marital satisfaction from women, right?
All right, I apologize. I got to pause again. Another fact check. It is true that Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, and Norway consistently rank highest in the world happiness report. In fact, in 2025, they were 1 to 4 and 7. I didn't even know they had a happiness report. That's crazy.
Me neither. I forgot
that they also have in the most open regards to like, sexual norms and sexual roles, right? So, and we also see that there's less rates of like STDs reported. We see more, and that's also due to comprehensive sex education that's pushed in those countries. So we see that and that's like a direct result of the sexual revolution, right? So when we're seeing that direct reports of happiness, right, we don't have these same rates in America. In these countries that are more sexually open, why would we see like those rates in those type of countries?
So I think you might be referring to this sort of mass-produced study that was a part of like a behavioral science study, which said that women were the happiest women in the world were women that were actually unmarried and had careers. No. Okay. Well, there was
reported happiness.
Okay, sure. I'm talking about the same thing. It was reported happiness, but it could be there's tons of studies. The point being is that in 2023, there was this massive scandal where they recognize that a lot of these studies that were being produced, behavioral science, was proven to be a complete fraud. And they were unable to reproduce these studies. And they also found that the data had been fake.
All right, we got another fact check. In 2023, Harvard investigated Dr. Francesca Gino for fraud. She was accused of manipulating data in 4 papers published from 2012 to 2020. She was investigated by the university and suspended without pay, and the school is trying to revoke her tenure.
The data that we can look at that I think shows, and you can let me know if you agree with this, if women, and under the imagination of the feminist umbrella, were really unhappy when they were in the home, and then entering the workforce has made women happier and infinitely feeling more secure about themselves, we could, I think, reasonably expect that there would have been a decrease in suicide rates amongst women.
You would have to go ahead and show how that correlation, right, is going to be a direct cause of women going into the workforce.
Okay, well, how can we, let's measure, then you have to give me a way that we can measure happiness. How can we measure happiness? So I would say suicide rates would be a good thing to look at. Drug, alcohol consumption would be a good thing to look at. Right,
but we would have to, we can say, I can say at this point in society, I don't think everyone's happy. I think there's a lot of things that we need to reconcile in society.
That's what I'm getting at.
Right, so but we have to look at the cause, right? Why are these things predicted, right? And for example, if we talk about men, there are a lot of things we can look at, right? That tend to predetermine suicide, right? But we can't say, oh, these two things are happening at the same time. This caused this other thing.
Yes, that's right. But I do think that we can objectively say that women who are committing suicide rates more than they were in the 1950s, like it has actually increased marginally. That's
all right. We got another SAN fact check. It says the suicide rate among women is statistically unchanged since the 1950s. That's 5.6 per 100,000 compared to 5.9.
It's not a sign that us entering the workforce suddenly made us
How
all
is
very
it a
happy.
cause of the workforce?
We're also binge drinking at a higher rate.
How's this
We're
cause of
opioids at a higher rate?
How is this a cause of entering?
Because I think women are being put on a pathway aspirationally.
But you're gonna have to. You're saying you think this, right? But where's the cause? Like you're not substantiating the claim. You're saying this is what I think. I'm seeing two.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you so much.
Great job. Great job. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm Nikki.
Nice to meet you.
So when we're talking about the value of women on a societal scale and how we view each other, right? When you're devaluing us, you're objectifying us. And follow me, I promise. But rape rates have gone down by about half in the last 20 years, right? So
all right, here we go. SAN fact check. It says rape rates over the last 20 years are difficult to track because the FBI changed the definition in 2013. That I didn't know. Now, which led to a significant increase in cases. Wow.
So the FBI probably added on things like, I remember reading where if you take off the condom, unbeknownst to the woman, that's considered rape. So the FBI probably added on a bunch of things like that, and that's probably what increased the numbers.
They probably should have came up with another word for that, but I think that's a problem. That's a no-no. You don't do stuff like that. That's dangerous.
There is a word for it. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I know it's funny as hell.
Oh, okay. Dang.
if you're saying we're less valuable now, why wouldn't we be suffering at a higher rate?
So is the argument that you're making, just so I understand, that because women are giving up sex for free, they're not being raped?
Every study shows rape is not correlated with just sexual gratification. It is a power structure.
Okay.
So it is about objectifying and abusing women when you rape them, not about whether or not you want sex. What I am saying is that women are less objectified, so therefore we are being raped less.
Okay, so you think that in today's society, because this is pretty wild for me. In the 1950s, you're saying women were more objectified than today in the land of OnlyFans, the Kardashian clan, and women that are essentially putting up their boobs and butts for free on Instagram. You're saying we finally have achieved less objectification, where women can't even get onto an advertising. You can't even advertise a bag without them having to be naked in order for them to get a career as a model. You're saying, oh, great, we've achieved actually less objectification.
So
that's a question for the chat as well. Do y'all think women are less or more objectified compared to a time like the 50s? I think that things just changed, like women more so objectify themselves. It's just weird. It's like women, I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like to me like we live in a world where women have more opportunities, but they still sexualize it. Like I watch, it's this lady, right? And she's working on a car. And I'm like, damn, man, like instead of looking at the video saying like this woman is a fire mechanic, she has the onesie thing that she has on. She has it zipped down where, you know, like her boobs are showing, being sexual, the makeup and the whole get up. And I'm like, it's just weird. They do kind of put that sexual, so they have these opportunities, but when they take these opportunities, they always have to add that sexual. They have to objectify themselves when doing it.
I agree
That's
with that.
crazy.
Like, have you been scrolling on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, and you run across a female truck driver? Like she's always wearing a half-cut shirt with no bra or some
Yeah.
yoga pants or something like that.
Yep.
Like you're really comfortable sitting in this damn 18-wheeler for 11 plus hours with that on? Like you're really comfortable like that?
Exactly. And we've had women truck drivers before. They just, when they did the job, they looked like the rest of us. They were truck drivers. They didn't introduce the sexual thing into it and pervert it, you know. So is it about showing off your new opportunities and your skills, or is it still about showing off your body and being sexual with it? And so I don't know. I would think women are more objectified now than would it be in the 50s. I mean, my mama told stories when she was growing up, even when they did bra advertisements, they couldn't have been more objectified then, because in the bra commercials, a woman had to wear a t-shirt under the bra she was advertising. Now in the bra commercials, you see all them things.
But not only that t-shirt, remember bras back in the 50s, there was a special kind of bra. You barely even saw cleavage with them damn bras. Them suckers covered everything.
Oh, I don't want to forget Caveman comment. He said, what about female lying about taking birth control pills? Can guys press charges for that too? That is a great point when we were talking about the guys getting in trouble for taking the condom off. I do agree with that. But yeah, even when you look at the Lucy show, I Love Lucy, her and Ricky being married. If you remember how the show started off, they slept in separate beds. They decided finally to push the beds together because she became pregnant, you know. So I think the answer for me would be women are more objectified currently than in the past.
Yeah, it'll be the same for me.
Yeah,
they're definitely objectified more. Even if you look back at in the as the early 2000s, like they're more objectified now even then. And remember back then, you remember that Nelly did the tip drill video. Everybody thought that was bad. Nowadays, bro, it's horrendous.
He got in trouble for that, like big trouble. People that were donating to him because remember his sister or somebody was sick, they took the money back.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. OSC Johnson says it's the same level of objectification is going on, just different venues. Let's see. Door says like he can't stand Candace. Wante says you right, bro. Stephanie says women are more objectified now, 100%. Let's see. Crispus says most people would take off their shirt to get $500. And Joshua says the depression rate was lower in the 50s because women were doing their God-given jobs just throw that out, just to throw that out there.
No, that's true. I mean, even back then, when pops had 4 or 5 different families around the city, wifey just did her thing at home, and everything was peachy
Yep.
somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you wake up getting your junk cut off.
Yeah, I like what Johnson threw out there. That's another thing people don't think about. That's why I think women are more objectified, because C. Johnson says minors being objectified is way higher now. That's another thing people live out. Like even now, it's the children. We're people were talking about that. Remember that black girl made that line dance to that Twister song remixed with that country singer. That I don't want to go downtown doing what we used to, and and it was a whole beef with the white girl and stuff. Started doing the dance, and she blew up off of it. But then people started talking about this little girl, but I think she was doing the line dance to that oh, I got my boots on the ground, and people were saying, talking about how they got that little girl out there taking her to these shows. You know, she's out there dancing for adults and stuff like that. And there's been a lot of situations like that where you have little kids doing grown-up dances. And, you know, so they're even objectifying kids now, you know, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Let me see.
I'm not trying to suggest that I think that the over-commodification of women's bodies is positive. But what I am saying is that when you're going to the 1950s, that we shouldn't put this glazed look of, oh, it was so happy. We had single income households and we got to stay home. We also had a pill popping problem. We also were viewed as maids. Like we were seen as a house appliance far more than we were as people. And so when you have that kind of objectification where you are in a subservient position, I think we're facing a different form today, but I think that rape is a signifier of a contradiction to your statement.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It doesn't make sense, but I do want to rebut it on a couple of points. So first, I just want to say, suggesting that objectification has gone downward since the 1950s is wild. That's just a firm no. That is not the truth. And you know that's not true.
Wait, so do you feel
like hold on, let me answer your second thing.
Now, DeLeon, you know damn well I ain't that old to remember when bras was not invented. That had to be a long time ago.
Man, that's diabolical, bro. That's messed up.
Do I look that old, man? That's a cruel thing to say. I ain't that damn old, man. I'm older than dirt.
What they trying to say?
You then brought up, okay, women were at home, but they were pills.
Yeah, we in Jesus' yearbook. If Jesus was voted most likely to succeed. Come on, man. Stop it. Ain't that old.
Pill popping. Well, you then have to acknowledge we're actually popping more pills now, right? So we have actually increased our amount of pill popping. Women are having overdoses on opioids. And on top of that, since I think 1999.
All right, another SAN fact check, which I love it. Some people in the chat said they love it too. A 2018 study found that women were more likely to report prescription opioid use compared to men. 55% compared to 42%.
By rate, we are increasing our opioid use compared to men. So women are not popping pills less because we're going into the workforce. That's actually not true at all either. We're also, like I said to you, consuming alcohol more and binge drinking more than we did in the 1950s, which is why I was trying to get her to say, we need to look at actually give me any reasonable metric of how we can define happiness, because it's hard, right? Are you happy? Yes or no?
Sure, but wait, hold on. We're actually avoiding what my original point was about rape being the signifier.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you.
Man,
nice
everybody
to meet you.
vote these people off the island. This is a bad episode of Survival.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I like your hat.
This woman here irritates the shit out of me with this hat. Oh my God. Just watch.
Whitney Shannon.
Because I be seeing her on other episodes. So me and her got a silent beef going on. She doesn't even know about me, but I am beefing with her.
Yeah,
She
nice
probably
to
feel like
meet
she
you.
needed a stick.
I am fascinated by your claim that women have lost happiness since the sexual revolution, since the 1950s. Do you think that there's any tie to happiness and freedom and happiness and choice? Because since 1950s, since the sexual revolution, women have gotten exponentially more freedom and more choice. And for me, as a mother and as a woman, having the freedom to choose what I do, to make my own destiny, makes me infinitely more happy than, say, back before the sexual revolution when I couldn't get a bank account, couldn't get a home loan, couldn't work outside the home, couldn't travel around without a man, couldn't control my own reproduction. So I feel that happiness, personally, my belief, is tied to our ability to have freedom. And I think that in the United States, protecting freedom and our individual freedoms is what's going to lead us to happiness.
Did you go to college?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Did you?
So yes, I did. So you have a degree?
Absolutely.
Now, when you went to college, did you go to college because it was simply something that you wanted to do? Or did you think that I have to go to college because in order to get a job, I have to have a college degree?
I went to college for art because I was fascinated with art.
Okay. It's just answering my question. Did you go to college? Was that the only reason you went to college? Or did you think that I might want to do something in art, so I have to go to college, like for my career?
I went to school because I wanted to expand my horizons. I mean, I think that's why most people go to university.
No,
Why
so
did
that's
you
actually,
go?
That's actually not
Why
true.
did
A lot
you
of
go?
I went, and I think a lot of people go because there's a pressure that if you don't go to college, you're going to be a failure.
It's a choice. Everything's a choice. So taking away choices doesn't make people happier. Taking away freedom doesn't make people happier.
I'm disagreeing with you on the idea that people are feeling more free by financial pressure. I think financial pressure makes people feel remarkably less free.
So you want no bank accounts again? Women not to have credit cards?
I'm
and no
not
bank
saying that
accounts?
women shouldn't have access to credit cards or banking accounts. You're putting words in my mouth. So why don't you respond to the words that I'm saying?
Well, less financial pressure. If I don't have a bank account, that's a lot less financial pressure, I guess, right?
Financial pressure in terms of most people that go to college, and I'm counting myself among them, is because typically in order to get the job that you're being sold.
Which part?
The part where she said, well, her response to Candace was having a credit card would be good without having a bank account because it's less financial pressure. How you gonna pay back the credit card? How you gonna pay up the credit card when you use it, fool? So far, that was the dumbest thing anybody said so far.
I told you I don't like her. I told you.
And that hat on her head just screams art school, art major.
Yeah. Boratrua Love says, what is she doing with that degree now? Not much. Not much. And Marty says, you're not old enough to be in the generation that couldn't get a bank account. Hey. If they like it, I love it.
Is going to make you infinitely happier and infinitely more free. It just requires a college degree. And most of these people, to be clear, have to put themselves, the majority of people have to put themselves into debt. And I don't think anybody would describe debt as a form of freedom, right? I don't think anybody would realistically say.
Let's get back to happiness. So we're here to talk about happiness and how the sexual revolution, and we're not talking about college debt.
I think it's important because we're talking about freedom. You just said that the reason why I feel happy is because I have more freedom. And I am saying that financial restraints and debt doesn't make people feel more free.
So let's eliminate the debt. Let's eliminate college debt. Maybe we should have free college here in the U.S. That sounds great. Great idea, Candace. I love that idea. All right.
Okay.
Love it. Woo! Champion for the people, girl. Very nice.
All right, return to your seat.
Surrounded is now a podcast, available wherever you listen. Search Surrounded, plug in, and stay part of the conversation. Anywhere, anytime.
My second claim is that no career will give women as much joy and fulfillment as raising.
Surrounded is now a podcast, available.
No career will give women.
All right, so this is claim 2. Do 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 do. Do do do. Okay. Oh, but I did want to give my, I don't know. I just looked this up because they were talking about the sexual revolution. And to me, they was all over the place. Right. So what was the sexual revolution? Now, the sexual revolution was a social movement mainly during the 1960s and 1970s, though it began in the late 1940s and 50s in some ways, that challenged traditional codes of behavior related to sexuality and relationships. Key aspects: greater acceptance of premarital sex and non-marital relationships, increased availability and use of birth control, like the birth control pill approved in 1960, the rise of women's liberation movement and gay rights movement. You ever notice in a lot of movements, the gay rights get put in there? I don't know.
The gay rights was put in Black Lives Matter. Gotta remember that.
Yeah, I don't want to be there saying that guy, but it does pop up in there. More open discussion of sex in media, art, and everyday life. Challenges to the idea that sex was only for reproduction and only acceptable within heterosexual marriage. Okay. But when you read about the sexual revolution, it don't sound that bad, but I think it got hijacked by a bunch of freaks. I know earlier somebody put in the comments about OnlyFans. So these are the pros to the sexual revolution. Number 1 is expanded sexual freedom. More people felt empowered to explore their sexuality and make choices outside rigid moral codes. Number 2 is women's autonomy. Access to contraception gave many women more control over their reproductive lives, education, and careers. Number 3 would be the LGBTQ plus visibility. The movement helped lay the groundwork for the gay rights movement and broader acceptance of diverse sexualities. Number 4 would be more open dialogue, sex education, sexual health awareness, and honest conversations about desire became more common. Number 5 is challenging double standards. It questioned moral double standards that police women's sexuality more harshly than men's. Here are the cons. Number 1, risky behaviors. The period saw a rise in sexually transmitted infections, STIs, and unintended pregnancies, partly due to a lack of comprehensive sex education. Number 2 is exploitation concerns. Some argue that the era's freedom was sometimes co-opted to justify exploitation, especially of women, under the guise of liberation. Number 3 is cultural backlash. The reactionary pushback from conservative and religious groups deepened cultural divides, sparking what's called the culture wars. Number 4 is uneven benefits. Not everyone had equal access to the new freedoms. Race, class, and gender still shaped who could fully benefit from sexual liberation. Like there's a lot of beautiful women that seem to do what they want to do. However, what's that big girl's name? She lost a lot of weight.
Lizzo
is not equal. It's uneven benefits. Number 5, commodification. Critics argue that over time, parts of sexual liberation became commercialized, reinforcing unrealistic beauty standards and objectification instead of true empowerment. All right, let's go on to the next thing. And I said that because nobody during that part of the debate, I don't think, really brought any of that stuff up. So claim number 2 is no career will give women as much joy and fulfillment as raising children.
As much joy and fulfillment as raising children.
Oh, hi, Candace.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm John. Okay, so I feel like a lot of your arguments today are very rooted in a sort of old school perspective. I have to be honest. Like, I think, and I'm not trying to be insulting whatsoever, I feel as though most people would identify that claim as pretty extreme and pretty like
children are extreme?
Well, no, that women would get more happiness inherently from raising kids than having a job or deciding what they want to do with their lives.
Why is that? I'm just curious. Why would having children, which is just a natural biological conclusion, be something that sounds extreme?
I just said inherently.
Well, inherently.
That's the inherent
extreme.
expectation.
Yeah.
That's better for
It's inherent because it's biological. So I think when we think about things that are inherent, I think biology is a good thing to start with, right? So biologically speaking, men and women come together, they form families, and that's the reason why you're sitting here. That's the reason that I'm sitting here, is because biology is inherent.
Well,
so
I was
saying it's just natural order that we're speaking about, right?
Okay, let's break it down. So why do you believe that? Why do you believe that?
Why do I believe that?
Why do you inherently are happier? Yeah.
You keep stressing this word inherent. So,
Yeah,
yeah. I think because it speaks to natural order, and every piece of life, I think, is enriched by
You
children.
don't think it's natural for women to get to decide what they want to do with their lives?
I do not think that saying women can decide whether or not they want to go to work or have children is problematic. What I'm saying to you is that women will get the most fulfillment from having a family.
Because it's natural.
It's natural, but also children are wonderful and beautiful and spiritually divine creatures. I mean, they're amazing. There's everything about having a child. Yes, it's a lot of work. It's beautiful.
I hear that. Well,
Yeah.
okay. What if there's a little girl born and it's her dream her entire life to be an author or to be, on TV or any of these things, and having children is very expensive. It takes a lot of time. So how is it better for that? And I understand this is hypothetical, but that hypothetical little girl to have children than to pursue these things that would make her happy as she gets.
Stop having kids when you're not
if
ready.
She publishes the book and she has a child. She would agree with me that the child was more fulfilling and made her happy. That's what I'm happier than the.
What you said, bro?
Answering his question. Stop having kids when you're not prepared, when you're not financially stable. When you haven't done anything in your life and still have plans, you don't just throw a kid into the equation.
Oh yeah, 100% correct. You know what? I think when you make certain statements, people always try to go to this extreme way of arguing it. When I think it's understood when we say these things, we're saying in a healthy environment. We're not just saying throw a kid in the mix, you'll be happy. Oh, you're broke, living on the streets, throw a kid in there, you'll be happy. Like, nobody's saying that. I don't know why they do
nobody.
that.
The book did, is what I'm saying. And I say this as a published author of a New York Times. I would choose my children over my best-selling book. And I was that little girl who had a dream that it would be really great if I could share my thoughts and ideas in a book. But it is utter insanity for me to reflect on that and say that I would have rather published Blackout than to have my 3 children.
But why is it rather? You see what I'm saying?
It's not rather. I'm just saying
that's your claim. That's your claim is that it's better.
It will be more fulfilled.
Right.
Yes.
So rather.
Well, if it's an either or, if you're saying it's an either or, I'm just saying that if these two things have happened in your life, the thing that will bring you more spiritual fulfillment will be children. And so women who are neglecting that, who are neglecting the pathway to, strive toward family because they think their career is going to hug them at night, or they think that when they're on their deathbed, their career is going to come up next to them and say, you were so great to me. I think that they've stepped into a delusion, and I'm hopeful that they wake up from it before it's too late.
All right, pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Please kick him off.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Okay, so currently.
Oh, you know what? I did want to add this. That's silly to me. I think that if you're talking about like somebody becoming an astronaut, a doctor, feeding the homeless, changing the world, of course you're going to be very, very fulfilled. And that's something you can look back in your life and say, man, I'm glad I got to do that. I really got to help a lot of people, and I made a difference in this world. I didn't just get online and argue about it and debate it with everyone. I really put in the work and I help people, right? But that ain't going to be most people.
No, it's not going to be a lot of people at all, because I mean, there's a multitude of ways you can get fulfillment.
Yeah, everybody's not going to have that. And so I I think most people can understand to say you're going to get more fulfillment out of your children than when you're going into just some office job. And most people are not going to sit on their deathbed and say, oh, I wish I spent more time at the job. No, nobody says that.
Absolutely not. Now, I will say, your girl right here kind of pretty. Let's see how stupid she is.
I don't remember.
Women make up about 47% of the workforce. If this were the case and that women were just inherently unhappy.
All right, another saying fact check. Women made up 40% of the U.S. civilian labor force in 2023. According to the Pew research, that's up from 30% in the 1950s.
Happy or unfulfilled working and would just prefer to be at home. Why don't they?
Because we've made that, due to prior feminist waves, nearly impossible, because now, which I believe the reason that the government wanted women to enter the workforce is because it gave them an opportunity to tax a household twice. And so this goes back to what I was saying, is that there's a lot of financial pressure that is being.
I apologize, y'all. I got to pause again. There's more fact checks. There are a number of reasons more women enter the workforce. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978, access to birth control, recognition of sexual harassment in the workplace, and the ability of women to apply for a line of credit without a male co-signer starting in 1974.
Being exerted on young women to enter the workforce, and they do so blindly under this illusion that somehow entering the workforce is going to make you more fulfilled, like getting yourself into 6 figures of debt going to college to then take on a career and be in debt and having to pay student loans while you make $35K is going to make you happier. And I'm saying that isn't actually true.
Okay, so I hear that.
Yeah.
At the same time, would you not agree that that women can both have a career and have children? I mean, you are actively doing that right now.
And I want to be very clear, because I am actively doing it right now. I would be someone that you would call an exception because I get to work from home. I get to wake up in the morning. I don't have a boss, right? I don't have to go into the office from 9 to 5. I get to then therefore spend the entire morning with my children.
So you're an exception, and the 47% of women that make up our labor force are also an exception?
No, the exact opposite. So I'm trying to make it more realistic, because I think it's really bad form when people who are able to stay at home, right, and are able to start working at 1:00 p.m. as I do, after being around their children, the children are running around all day, will then preach to you that every woman can have this. That's not the reality. The reality is that the overwhelming majority of people are stuck behind a desk all day, and they're not happy. They're not doing work that gratifies them at all. And at the same time, they're suspending.
Well, that's just what career you've chosen. But I think that the issue with your
work a 9 to 5, I think that's
okay.
reality,
Yes, but
right?
if it's the job that is making them unhappy, then maybe they should have chosen a different career path and not the structure of the career itself. But my issue with this is that not only
I don't think most of them want to work. Like, let's be honest, even when they're doing the whole gender war and debate and they go, oh, women are independent. What do women say? We do this, we're this way because we have to be. They always say because they have to be. They never say because they want to be. They don't want to do it.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
They don't want to do it. And I think you have other women trying to speak for other women and force it down their throat. They don't want it. Even when they bring up the whole women didn't have the right to vote. Majority of those women did not. A lot of women then, when they were fighting for that, they didn't want their right to vote because it came with entering into the draft. It came with other responsibilities. They didn't want it. I don't think most of them truly want to work. I think they do it because they have to. It sounds nice to work for your own because somebody's preaching in the back of your mind, a man gonna take you and control you. You're gonna be under his rule and thumb. I don't think most of them want to work. I don't believe it. I hear them talk about work, they don't do it. Look at Instagram, TikTok. Most of the memes about thank God it's Friday, I'm tired of this work and tired of this is from women. You look at majority of the men and what they post, they're posting videos of them and at work. Look at me hammer this nail into this wood. Look at me do roofing. Look at me install a fence. Look at me install an engine. There's a sense of pride there in videos there. All the women, they're sitting on the couch with a glass of wine saying, thank God it's Friday. They don't want to be at work.
With a glass of wine and a bonnet.
Yeah, look at the content they're putting out. They don't want to be there.
only is it claiming that women can't both be mothers and have jobs, which we know to be true because millions of women do that. My mother does that. You are actively doing it right now. But it also is qualifying what every single woman in this country wants without any clear evidence. I mean, there's 169 million women in this country over. How can you say that you know exactly what every woman secretly wants? Are you asking them?
That wasn't my claim that I secretly know what every single woman wants. I'm saying that if you measure up at the end of your life, what brought you more fulfillment, your career or a children, raising children in your family, we will discover that, and there actually have been studies, people that have gone to people on their deathbed.
All right, Sand Fact Check says, according to the top 5 regrets of the dying by Bronnie Ware, too much work is the number 2 regret behind not living a life true to yourself.
And the number 1 regret that people have was that they gave too much to their careers. And this includes men, by the way.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, of course, human relation is going to be valued over money and profit.
So then
but
you
at
don't
the same time, what does that even
with my argument?
I do
at all.
disagree
You're
with your
agreeing with my
argument.
argument.
Yes, humans prefer humans over a job, but that's not just singular to women. That's everyone. And my question is, what does that even have to, what is the goal of that? Should every woman quit working and just have a child?
Well, I'm just trying to warn you that if you decide to suspend that pursuit of family because you think that you have to first climb the ladder, a lot of women make that mistake and they don't end up finding a partner.
But that's their right. It's free will.
You
We
will
live in
definitely
free
have a right to
country.
make
You
a
don't get to
mistake.
say what people should and shouldn't do.
I don't think my claim is this is what people should or should not do. I'm just simply stating that my claim is that you will be more fulfilled if you focus on
you
trying
don't get to decide what other people are fulfilled by.
Okay, I'm making my claim here that women are infinitely more fulfilled in the household and raising children than they are taking that 9-to-5 job.
But you have no evidence of that. In fact, you are evidence against your own claim.
I'm not evidence against my own claim.
You are.
I'm saying
You're
that
here at work right now.
I've literally said, I am telling you, women cannot have it all. That is an illusion, and that is an illusion that is stressing women out. And I think it is the reason why so many women are turning to popping pills, why there's been such a significant, more than 1,000% increase since 1999.
But men can have it all. Men can be.
Saying fact check, her exact claim can't be verified, but in general, women use antidepressants at twice the rate of men. You know, I don't even know if I'm being honest, I don't know if it's about being at work or being at home. I think it's all about finding your way, to be honest with you. I think socially, like as a guy, right? The main things a guy got to worry about is don't do nothing that look gay. That's probably like was the toughest thing as a guy, right? That's it. Women, it's like them saying maybe like a woman in the streets, freak in the sheets. A woman got to wear a lot of different hats. A woman got to be a good wife to a husband. Then she's expected to be a freak, right, for him as well. But then she can't be too freaky because she wants to be seen as a mother and as a nurturer. But then in the same breath, the cost of living going up, majority of households, 2 people going to be working. She's also got to go out to the workplace and work. But then what does that mean when she comes home? And it's kind of like she feels subservient, and it's kind of like, come on, dude, I pay bills and work hard just like you. I want the same respect. I think women's and what is womanhood is being pulled in so many different directions. That might have something to do with it. And it might not be necessarily because I'm happier whether I'm at home or I'm happier where I'm at work. I think it's just being pulled in so many different directions. As a guy, I don't think it's that complicated for us. That's just me being honest. Don't stone me for saying that.
Fathers and have a job, but women can't do that.
I don't think you can have it all.
It sounds like you're devaluing women. I think that women can do everything that a man can do, and men have done this historically throughout time immemorial.
I think women is our debate topic today. So
women exist in a society with men. We are comparing.
Women are trying to be both women and men, and that is why women are unhappy today. Is because actually, what's quite ironic about the feminist movement is that
I think women are just trying to be people.
I think women have been taught that being a woman is not enough and that you have to also aspire to be a man. And that's the irony. It's like a psychological conditioning. What feminists went out and did and said is that in order for women to have value, women need to be like men. And I'm saying
Candace,
that
so
actually
can I
women
propose a
and men are
hypothetical?
biologically different. There are differences in our behavior. There are differences in our desires. And I think evidence of the feminist movement, by the way, shows us that, because even when women enter into the college education space, the pathways of career that we choose are different from men because we're biologically different, right?
Okay, so let's say that this is true, that women truly are more fulfilled at home. Now, the average cost of raising a child a year is around $21,000 or more. So my issue is, are you saying that
Fact check from SAN. Lending Tree estimates it costs $29,419 per year to raise a child. There are multiple estimates above $20K per year.
women should just suddenly stop working and now the onus is entirely on men? Like, the society that you're pitching is not sustainable economically.
And I think it was sustained economically,
but it's not right
All
now.
right, pause. Naima, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Ceci.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So your claims that women will be happier at home. I think you're conflating, though, happiness with importance, because I get what you're saying, where a woman can write a book and have kids, but the kids are always going to make her happier. But I think it just means that kids are always going to be more important, not necessarily make you happier. But also piggybacking on Naima, we don't live in an economy where people typically can have a one-income household,
right?
Whether it be the mom or dad that stays home. And so I think, and you keep bringing up the 1950s, which
because it was right before the fact.
I just don't know if that's the period of time that you want to go back to.
No, it's just I'm just going back to the first wave of feminism.
But you want to undo progress that's been done. So I'm curious as to what decade you'd be comfortable living in, especially as a Black woman.
Okay, so we're gonna park aside the race politics. So I want to focus on.
Okay, then as a woman, what period of time do you want to go back to?
Just as a woman, I think that it was probably a better environment for women when we understood that raising our children was fulfilling.
But some women still do understand that.
Right.
And a lot of women
and I'm one of them.
And I'm here advocating for you to be able to live the life that you want and for other women to be able to live the lives they want.
Do you have children?
No.
Okay. You have a career, I presume?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you work at? What field do you work in?
I do hair.
Okay. Wonderful. So I have
Wow,
both
I know
children
she just
and a
didn't say
career,
that.
as somebody pointed out. And so the fact
What happened?
That girl went on that tangent just to say that she does hair. Like she's a celebrity, like she do Beyonce hair or something like that, which I'm sure she doesn't.
Yep. Brock, you said man commits suicide more than women. Yeah. But
Yeah, they do.
women
Women
attempt
lead
at
the
a
nation
higher
in
rate. though.
attempts. Yeah, women lead in attempts. So that goes on to say that when it comes to offering oneself, women suck at their jobs.
You gotta warn me so I don't bust out laughing, dog.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna shut up from now on. I'm sorry. Hey, one thing men is good. One thing men good at is to themselves.
fact that I'm saying that you will be infinitely more fulfilled at the end of the day by raising your children than you will be if you come home and you say, wow, I really crushed it dyeing somebody's hair today. What is it exactly that makes you angry about hearing that? Like, that's what I'm actually trying.
Nothing makes
I'm
me
trying
angry.
to get.
No,
I'm
that's
trying to
just
get
it.
to
You know
the.
what,
I'm
Kat?
trying
No,
to get
but
to the
that's-
implicit
but
revolution.
That's the thing is that no one
when
is
someone
angry.
mentions children.
No, see, no one's angry when you mention children. I get angry, I guess, when you mention that someone should have a children, or you're trying to impose a lifestyle onto people that you want to live, which I think is kind of funny because as someone who's anti-feminism, you practice it more than most women do. I mean, every time you get on your podcast, every time you collect a check, you're practicing feminism.
Okay, that's what you think.
No, that's what it is. Because
actually,
without feminism,
yeah.
you wouldn't be able to exist.
Yeah, people keep saying, I hate when people say that.
But
because
it's just the
it
truth.
just shows that you haven't done the research to even understand where the
Or you don't know
came from,
history.
which was discovered. That's what I'm saying about you, because it means that you don't understand that a bunch of government officials in the CIA funded the feminist movement. So for all of your hatred for the patriarchy,
I'm so confused.
and
So my
SAN fact check: the CIA funded organizations associated with the feminist movement, including the independent research service founded by Gloria. What's it? How you pronounce that name? Stein? Whatever. I don't care.
question is it bad that they funded it or bad that it just happened?
Men wanted women to go into the workforce. The government, which had a lot.
Oh, and Pinky, I don't know how to do the call-ins, but sometimes I do drop the link, you know, if people want to talk.
A lot of men, it was being.
Are you talking about because World War II occurred and we had to go to factories, and then when we left the factories, they forced us back into the homes?
That's not what I'm saying at all. So let me tell you what I'm saying, and then you can respond to it.
Go for it.
Gloria Steinem is considered to be a feminist icon, right? Because she led these protests. She also had a bunch of music festivals. She got students involved. It is just a fact that Gloria Steinem was funded by the CIA, okay? The CIA, being the male-dominated CIA of the 50s and the 60s, funded those movements. So what do you think was the explicit aim? Do you think it was because the government really wanted you to be more free, that they wanted to encourage women to enter?
Well, I have to be honest with you, I couldn't speak on behalf of the government.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And what their intention
Well, I think it's important because you
with
just said that I don't know history. And I think it's pretty important, if you're going to sit across from me and say I don't know history, that you
Yeah,
learn a
but-
piece of history and then question as
You keep bringing up men, and I think it's funny because we should talk about men more. Like you brought up suicide, they're 4 times more likely to kill themselves.
which is why I don't
And while
think-
women, we're twice as more often on antidepressants, but that's
SAN fact check: according to the CDC, the suicide rate among males in 2023 was approximately 4 times higher than the rate among females. As of 2020, the CDC found that women were twice as likely to use antidepressants. We just talked about that. I hate when people bring up this thing as this way to attack and shut down somebody else. You know what these statistics means? Is that everybody done lost their damn mind. It wouldn't matter if this person took themselves out or this person doped themselves up. You still, both of you have walked out on life and is currently not living it.
Absolutely.
One took themselves out and went to the next level. You're walking around like a zombie. Neither one
Masking
is better.
emotions.
Yeah, neither one is better or worse than the other one. It's still people that need help. And this speaks to the hate of some of these women. They I do want you to know they're using this. They do this on Clubhouse all the time when we're having these debates. They bring that up as a I got you, you know, look at how messed up y'all are. Like they just say it to be mean. And they get away with doing it all the time.
But then if you look up some of the leading causes to men's suicide, it's usually relationships and children.
You're saying it's the relationships and the children?
Yeah, that's one of the leading causes.
Why are they trying to get away from them?
Well, not necessarily trying to get away from you, taking things like stress from relationships, custody, things of that nature, not being able to see. They got a dude that I read about a couple years back who committed suicide by cop. And the baby mama acted like she was so hurt and everything, but then the family released the text message and everything, and the dude hadn't seen this kid in I forgot how long. It was a hot little minute, and he just said screw it.
Yeah.
because we go out and do what we need to do to keep coping.
Because we're not happy.
And we need to focus on men and the patriarchy because it's actually oppressed them just as much as women now emotionally, right? Because when we're kids, our parents teach us how to cross the street. Look both ways so you can get the other side unharmed. When a boy comes across a feeling, and I'm using men and boys here because they're the ones suffering, women are too, but emotionally. When they come across a feeling they haven't felt before, we have to teach them how to get to the other side and cope with it. Otherwise, they stay where they are. That anger and resentment builds. That's the feeling they become most comfortable with, that's the feeling they go to first in most situations.
All right,
So we need to
pause.
stop telling our boys that they don't cry, because they do. They just do it alone, and then they become even more alone.
All right. Jasmine,
to meet
nice
you.
to meet you. Okay, so you say that women are more fulfilled at home with kids than going out into the workforce or getting educated, but that just really doesn't bear out when you look at the stats, when you look at how working mothers are way less likely to be in poverty. Maternal education is the #1 predictor of childhood outcomes, better scores.
SAN Fact Check says maternal education does improve a child's cognitive development and can help with language and motor skills too. She went overboard with drawing that wing on her eyelids.
Getting higher incomes in the future, fewer behavioral problems, better mental health. So it's weird to me and college educated women are least likely to get divorced. And they're the only women, the top 10% of women are the only women whose marriage rates are going up. So they're getting married, they're staying married, and their kids are doing better. When you look at stay-at-home mothers, you see that they're more likely to report being depressed. They're more likely to report having anxiety and anger and all these types of things. So how can you say that? Seems like a woman, if you want to get married and have kids, you should go to college and have a career.
So it sounds to me like we are looking at totally different statistics, because everything that you said, I've actually read the exact opposite.
I'm glad we're on a fact check show with you.
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's so exciting.
That's going to be amazing. Okay, because I know, like I said, I think what we're talking about is that there was this widespread report on female happiness, and I know that it was formally debunked, and it was.
That's not what I'm talking about. Pew Research, University of California. In fact, working mothers today spend more time with their children than women did in the 1960s that were at home.
Okay, well, women that are at home are obviously spending more time with their children than the people who are at work.
And their
today.
children are not faring off any better, and they're faring off worse.
How are you measuring their children faring off worse?
How likely they are to higher incomes, better scores, fewer health problems, fewer behavioral issues, and better mental.
So the just to get back to the claim that I'm making here is that it is obvious that women who have children are going to be more fulfilled.
How is that obvious? Because you said
No, it's not obvious because I said so. It's because when you look at all the statistics in terms of women who are choosing not to have families, they are, as the person who just sat here before you mentioned, they are suffering from more depression. They're suffering from more anxiety. And
that's not true.
Okay, it is true. It is actually true that women who are choosing their careers over.
All right, SAN Fact Check again says recent data on this topic is scarce, but CDC data shows that from 2015 to 2018, women were more than twice as likely to take antidepressants than men, and antidepressants use was more common among those with college degrees.
Starting families are finding themselves leaning more onto medicines like Xanax, anxiety-inducing medicines, and depression, because they suspended that time frame where women really should be looking to find a partner and to start a family, because they were instead pursuing their careers.
And why are they better off?
It is a dishonest, it is totally a dishonest narrative that men and women want the same things out of life. We don't. We absolutely do not want the same things out of life. In fact, we don't even measure success the same. Men and women don't even measure success the same.
So, but tell me how the women who are working and getting educated, why are they faring off better in all of these?
I am telling you that I do not believe they are faring off better in all of these measures.
Because of what?
I am telling you that we are looking at totally opposite statistics. Like, so you're sitting here telling me that the statistics show that women who are working are producing better children. But I am saying that women that grow up in a two-family home where the mother stays at home are faring off better than the children who are being raised in an environment
where the women are working,
where both of the parents are
why don't you
away
stay
from
home?
the home. I do get to work from home.
No. But
that's the irony.
I've watched your show. You talk about all the nannies you hire, and it's so hard to find a good nanny.
I talked about all of the nannies I hire.
Yeah, you have.
I spoke about how difficult it was to find a babysitter who knew how to cook a meal, and that's because
you don't need a babysitter. You could retire right now.
To let people respond to you when they're speaking.
You don't want to.
to respond to you when
no,
I
you
speak?
don't want to. You want to be working, which is great.
You're telling me what I want now and then accusing me of telling you.
Wait, are you? You don't want to work?
Can you just let me finish? Because you've said so many words that what you're trying to do here, like your argument style, is I'm going to say so much, not let her get a word in, and then walk away and feel like I've won. We're not having a conversation because you've not letting me respond to one of your points. Okay. What I am saying to you, first to answer what you just said, which was a lie, what I spoke to you about on the weekends is that it's been increasingly difficult to find a 25-year-old who even knows how to make boxed macaroni and cheese, right? And that's crazy. That is in large part due to feminism. Women don't even focus. Like there's this idea that women shouldn't be cooking. Like there's something fundamentally wrong with women even learning how to cook.
Are you
know what I mean?
spending as much time with your children as you possibly can? Because that's the way to get the most fulfillment.
No, and that's what I'm trying to say. I am speaking to you
So then stop.
Okay, could you please let somebody get in?
I did.
Word
I let
edgewise?
you finish.
You're not. You
I
actually
did.
have not let anybody finish. And like I said, it's no one benefits when you're just speaking over me and not allowing me to respond. All you're proving is that you have an attitude and you believe in feminism, but you're not. That's what I'm saying. You just have an attitude, and it's not cute. It's performative.
I'd love if you address my point. I will be quiet if you address my point.
Does anybody actually feel here that I am being allowed to address any of her points when she just keeps running over me? Like I'm literally trying to answer your first point of you saying that I don't stay at home.
Yeah,
fair point.
Really weird.
Fair point. Obviously, I get that you're all anti-Candace and pro-feminist, but also it's not productive if you're not actually.
Okay, address the point. You spend more time saying that I'm not addressing, that you don't have a chance to talk. I mean, the whole time you could have addressed the point. Okay. You could have talked.
I
go for it.
Just want you to know that you're not coming across as somebody who wants to actually have a conversation. So to get back to the claim, because I don't even know where you're at. You're now talking. You're saying that I said stuff in my podcast.
I'll go wherever you want to go.
I never said.
I'll go wherever.
So do you want to start with me working at home? Because I work at home. You just said something about me working.
You travel all around the world.
Okay,
you do speeches, and I love that. I love how ambitious you are. That's a really great trait. And if you were truly said that, you would be more fulfilled. Now, one thing you do find is women, they don't want to stay at home when you pull them. They just want flexible working hours and flexible working conditions like you have. And I think we should all advocate for that. It's not one or the other. But when you sit here and you go, you'll be more fulfilled doing this and spend all your time.
And that's the answer right there. They don't care about how the world works. They just want what they want. And now it makes sense.
Time doing that. We would love for you to leave the public eye and go focus on what makes you fulfilled.
Okay.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is on a mission to raise the bar on journalism in a time of media bias and mistrust. Straight Arrow News helps you quickly find trusted information you need to understand the news, allowing you to dive deep into the topics that matter to you and the world around you. Their work is trying to break the bias bubble, helping you understand how every side of the political spectrum is reporting on a story so you get a full picture of the news. That's why we're so happy to be partnering with Straight Arrow News. They deliver the facts, unbiased, balanced, and designed to make sense of a complex world, getting you the clarity you deserve and news you can trust. Go to san.com/surrounded or click the link in the description to check it out. By clicking that link, you're not just supporting this channel. You also take advantage of a better way to get the news. Welcome back to Trustworthy Journalism. Thanks again to Straight Arrow News for partnering with us on this episode. Now, let's get into it.
My next claim is that we live under a matriarchy, not a patriarchy.
Hi, hello.
Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Princella, the Queen Maker.
Love that.
So,
hey, Prince, you know who that is, right?
No, fill me in. I know I heard that ridiculous name just now.
You ain't seen her. She went on Fresh and Fit before. She's done a lot of different debating. She speaks to the nature of man and women. She was married before. She has a kid, was married. She was in the military. She now is a lesbian, and she
of course she
she advocates for women. What's interesting though is recently somebody pointed out and did a video on her how a little bit of her content has changed because she was in her lesbian relationship and the woman did her wrong, and then she just kind of went on this rampage and started sounding like the guys be sounding. You
Oh,
know,
that's nothing new. That always happens with the young pharaohs, the brother polites. That's not new. I can see that. That's what always happens. They advocate for something, and then when there's something they advocate for, stabs them in the back. Now they turn coat.
Yeah.
So you say we live in a matriarchy.
Right.
Can you give me the definition of patriarchy?
Yes. Well, the patriarchy is the idea that the system, our system in America, is being run by men, and that women are having to exist under a system that immediately disadvantages them because men are behind it. And I disagree with that pointedly. I think actually we're living in a society where people are being very much influenced socially and politically by women.
Okay, so the denotative definition of patriarchy
Lord
is
said she
father
needs
rule,
Jesus.
and where positions of government are held majorly by men, where women are largely excluded. So 125 House of Representatives are female, and that's only about 25%.
Right.
And only about 28% make up Senate, and 3.3% of Congress up until this date have ever been women. So by denotative definition, we literally live in a patriarchy.
Yes. So I disagree with that. So I think what this gets to, which is actually an important part of the conversation, is that people always think that where there is disparity, there's somehow inequality. And I actually reject that entirely. I think it's just a difference in what we're interested in. I think we're biologically wired, we're interested in different careers. And just because if we looked in the fashion industry and said, oh, well, it's being dominated by women, it wouldn't mean that, okay, well, that means that the fashion industry is a matriarchy and men have no sense. It just means have no ability to communicate how they feel in the fashion industry. I literally think that those numbers show that we're just biologically different. So I actually think politically, women have shown that they have a lot more power than men have. And I'm talking about just in terms of political movements. The most recent I can think of is the Me Too movement, right? If a bunch of women get together and complain about a man and refer to the patriarchy and scream, generally speaking, let me know if you agree, the media will celebrate that. If a bunch of men got together and were shrieking and speaking about women, generally speaking, the media would call them all white supremacists and say that we had a misogyny problem and that things were really wrong in society. Women are allowed to be more vocal in general about problems than men are.
Well, let me speak to that. When we're talking about government and media, these are two different things. So under the denotative definition of a patriarchy, by the percentages that are occupied in the government, which is majority male, defines us as a patriarchy. Now, what it comes to for capitalism, for marketing purposes and control, for capital and revenue, that is a totally different conversation. But who's making the laws? I don't think that women are the ones voting to have their reproductive rights taken away, where you have rape, incest, and all of these things excluded to force women to be able to have. I don't think women in government would largely vote against their own interests because it's majority male, patriarchy.
Okay, I think love that point. Are women allowed to vote?
Oh, of course they are.
Who's voting that patriarchy and then out of curiosity?
No, I totally agree. And you want to know why? Because there are so many women who think like you submit to the idea of men ruling everything. And your ideology is spread across a lot of women who also falsely believe to vote against their own interests just to complain about it in the end. Earlier you said that, women would be much more happier working at home, but don't you agree that it's human nature to want things that you don't have? So during the 1950s, which is something that you constantly bring up, it wasn't until 1994 that it was legally illegal to beat your wife. And so
here we go. SAN fact check. This, you know what? I've been listening to a lot of debates and they always bring this bit of information up about it being legal to discipline your wife. Okay, the fact check says she is referring to the 1994 Violence Against Women Act, which provides protections at the federal level for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and other crimes. So it seems like they just did it federally. I don't know if that means that up until the way they say it is if up until 1994 you could just beat a woman up and not get arrested for it. Is how they say it. I don't know that to be true though.
What we're dealing with is people wanting something, and then when they get it, they're not happy with it, and then they have to revoke that idea for something else. And so what you're saying is that women vote for these things because they have the same mentality as you.
Okay. So you're acknowledging that women have the freedom to vote.
Yes.
And you're saying that women are still existing mentally, even with the freedom to vote.
Correct.
They are voting men in because we are still victims of.
No, I don't believe in victimhood. I believe in lack of education and lack of knowledge, because one of the things that you also say.
Do you think that it could just be that more men are running for positions of office?
No, not necessarily. Because remember, the United States, the average reading comprehension of people in the United States is 6th grade. So we're not dealing with educated people. Lack of education is the cause for what we see in the world. And if we educate the women better, because a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And if she reading and comprehending at a 6th grade level and popping out a lot of kids, because the brokest people in the world pop out the most kids. So if we have those people voting, of course they're going to vote against their interests, because they're voting for some utopian society that will never exist.
Okay, so that's why you think Kamala lost.
This ain't even about Kamala.
Because you're talking about women. No, but we had an opportunity.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had a male running and we had a female running. And we actually showed that Trump increased the amount of women who voted for him, right?
Sand Fact Check says that President Trump increased the share of women who voted for him from 41% in 2016 to 45% in 2024.
So I'm asking you, do you believe that the reason that happened was because women became less educated during that time?
They've always been less educated. Did you know that UNESCO says that that 2/3 of the 7.7 million illiterate adults is women?
SAN Fact Check again. The UNESCO found that 2/3 of adults who are unable to read are women. Man, I need to remember that when I be in them debates, because when I be in those clubhouse rooms, they're very mean to us guys. They call us stupid. Hold on to
that. Illiterate. And we have 6th grade educated people voting. And guess who? Guess the dominant population? It's white women. And so guess what? Now you have to add a race element into that, which you already know exists, because we as Black folks, we ain't the dominant people voting people in. Okay. So now when we have to go into white supremacy and feminism, now you have to look at the mind of the people who actually have economic success and what they're voting for, because classism actually matters as well. So I'm sorry, but a lot of people vote based on their feelings and not based on policy.
Pause, guys.
Yes.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
What up? What up, Press? You back? You hit the dead zone.
Yeah. I'm back. My bad, bro.
Danger zone. Danger zone. Danger zone.
I'm gonna have to remember that that little fact too about the women not being able to read.
I know. 2/3. Damn. Can't wait to hit Clubhouse today.
Thank you for the respectful conversation.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Great to meet you. I'm doing
Very
well.
nice to meet you.
So I view this argument as a matter of fact, right? This is a descriptive claim about the culture, reality we live in, and patriarchy being a system in which men hold the predominance of power in both political, economic, and social methods of organization. So S&P 500 companies, 90% of CEOs are men. Board members, 70% of CEOs are men. 70% of congressional members are men. Now, you may provide some sort of naturalistic argument to why that is, but what you're essentially arguing then is that there's a natural patriarchy, which I think feminists would all disagree with. We think that there's a clear social pressure as to why this is. And part of the evidence for that is since feminism's arise within our public culture, we've now seen an explosion of women entering these fields, but we have a long way to go. But fundamentally, the claim regarding patriarchy or matriarchy, we are so much closer to where we were just a few decades ago or a couple generations ago where women couldn't hold a credit card than a system where men can't hold a credit card. We're still much closer to that form of society.
Why would you say that we're closer to that? What do you mean by that? Did you just qualify that?
Because in terms of economic power, so for example, household wealth, women own 55 cents to every dollar a man owns.
Who controls household?
All right, SAN fact check again. One survey found the gender wealth gap is 55 cents for every dollar. Another found it to be just 32 cents for every dollar. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis found that gap to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis found that gap to be even larger for Hispanic and Black individuals.
Household spending, though. So you talk about how the money's made in America. How is it being spent? Who spends it?
So it's primarily spent by women, as you've noted, but then the money where the profit's being generated, it's being generated by men.
Would you rather be the people that are spending and deciding on what the money's being spent on, or would you rather be the person that's just working to earn that?
Another SAN fact check says that women are responsible for 70% to 80% of purchasing decisions, according to Capital One Shopping.
CEOs and board members aren't working. They own the shares and they're making the profit.
Well, when you own profit is making.
You would much in a capitalist system, by definition, you would much rather be making the profit than spending.
I would much rather be spending your money than having to work for your money. Just so we are totally clear here, I would much rather spend your money than have to go out and earn your money.
Well, you're talking about wage laborers in terms of working, but in terms of
I'm speaking about spending power, right?
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
Okay. But that matters. If 85% of 85 cents of every dollar, how that's being spent, is being determined by women, that's power. That we can't say spending power is not power.
Why do you think that is the case? It's because women are often relegated to the role of doing grocery shopping, etc. Because for millennia now, or from millennia up until now, women were unable to enter the workforce and have economic political freedom.
So let's get into the reasons, because you brought up something that men are the people that are at the top of these companies, these Fortune 500 companies,
and political power.
You're absolutely right. Why is that?
It's primarily because the women haven't broken the ceiling quite yet in terms of meeting men in terms of parity with these sort of powers. But what we've seen with the explosion of feminism is that women have actually begun to enter these companies, have risen into both political and economic positions of power. But that continues to grow year by year, which shows that these social pressures are actually breaking apart as soon as feminism comes into play.
So what I would say is what that shows you is that women and men have different interests. And I think this gets into what I was saying, that just because you see a disparity does not mean that it's not just a disparity in what our interests are. That's what's being represented. I don't know why there has been this idea that women should want to aspire to work 80 hours a week in order to be on par with men.
Do you think that interests are innate, or do you think
I think the interests are innate?
So why is it then that, for example, in the 1980s, only a quarter of college graduates were women, where now majority of college graduates are women? That shows that because of the way.
SAN fact check says that women have been graduating from college at higher rates than men since the 90s.
That social pressures have actually changed. Women's interests are actually now changing too. A majority, I think, or at least half of law school graduates are now women. It used to be the case for example, a few hundred years ago, that a lot of primary philosophers like Immanuel Kant, Hegel, didn't even believe women could be reasonable. Now here you are today doing a debate with me where we're using logic and reason to get to these flows, and nobody here would dismiss the claim that you can't be rational or logical or be, for example, a great lawyer because you're a woman.
Right. So I totally agree with you that women, but I think they have actually entered into the workforce. Entered into college under this external pressure of feeling that if you don't go to college, you're going to be a failure.
So you admit that pressures are a part of the way interests work.
Yes, but we're disagreeing on where the pressure is coming from. I think that now the pressure is that if a woman doesn't enter the force, there's no longer this idea that, okay, we're going to come together as a family, whereas there was this reality that there was this understanding that you would have a partner. People were getting married when they were 18, 19 years old. Our grandparents Now it's because of feminism. And I'm saying this is the downside of feminism. Women no longer have that sense. They think that they have to be pressured to go take out a loan to go to college, and then you have the pressure to get.
Well, they have the same pressures as men because women no longer rely on it for an income.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please.
I did like our conversation. Might have to come back to you.
Hi, Candace Owens. I'm Paris.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, can I explain to you why I believe we live in a patriarchy and why I believe we live in a society that's preferential to men? So, I'm going to use the example of male violence. There's a lot of places I can look, but we're going to talk about that. 81% of women have been sexually assaulted. 1 in 6 have been raped. 1 in 4 women are the victims of domestic violence. 98% of perpetrators of rape and sexual assault are men. 95% of perpetrators of domestic violence are men. In regards to human trafficking, 70% of human trafficking victims are women. So we're seeing a very clear issue of men being violent towards women. And then when we look at the way that our government handles that, 1 out of 3 rapes go reported. And then out of the ones that go reported, 7% end in jail time. So if we're looking at that and we're looking at the fact that our government doesn't really get that worried about male violence.
Well, so what I would say is, going back to biological differences, men are naturally inclined more towards aggression than women are. So I am not shocked by you telling me. It's even if you looked at, like I said, male on male crime, you would see that there are more instances of men killing other men than there are instances of women killing other women. And that, I think, actually speaks to our biological differences, which is actually at the root of everything that I believe about feminism being a lie, is because they're trying to program people to believe that men and women are the same. Now, I don't think that pointing to the fact that men are more aggressive than women, which is a point that you and I 1000% agree on, whether or not that manifests in the very wrong way of men harming other men, which I think they do more probably than they are beating women, men on male violence. That manifestation.
Yeah, that part is true. As a man, you're far more likely to be the victim of a violent crime.
Doesn't change the fact that men and women are just biologically hardwired different. I think it's actually proof of that. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact of power dynamics in this country, because to the contrary, if you look at prison rates and talking about how disparities don't mean anything, the majority of overwhelming people that are in prison are male, right? There's a reason for that. So when it manifests in a good way, that male aggression, is the reason why we have men defending us, men that are willing to go to war and die for our nation. So aggression being an aspect of masculinity has nothing to do with the conversation of whether or not feminism is harming women today.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that
we agree.
Women are biologically different.
Yes,
men
but what I want you to connect it to is, I guess, power. Because what I'm talking about when I say that we're existing under a matriarchy is that I believe that the social pressures politically and socially that are coming, and even within our music, if we talk about Hollywood, it's very much
that
has
power
become
means nothing. Like, just because who was on the top music charts or whatever are women. Okay, how many women have paid maternity leave?
Okay, that's not
like how are things panning out in the family courts? Why are abusive men having access to their children? Like, why are women making less than men? Like, what? I mean, none of that means anything to me.
So that gap, obviously, I'm sure you've recognized the gender gap has been debunked so many times. It's almost foolish to debunk it again.
Well, you could say, yeah, that most women will go into jobs where they're making less, but then it does answer the question of why do we not value women's labor?
That's not valuing women's labor. It's just a reality that if you are going to be a person that aspires to become a brain surgeon, you are going to make more money than a person that aspires to do something that's, like in the household.
Can we go back to the male violence question?
Yes.
Why does our country not persecute men then who are rapists?
Well, the majority of people who are in prison are men. So I don't know what you mean that we don't prosecute men that are rapists. We even prosecute people.
7% go to jail. Only 7% go to jail.
I don't know what that has to do with the question of whether or not we're living in a matriarchy or a patriarchy.
Because our government is preferential to men.
You're saying that they only like to arrest men when they kill someone, but our government is awarding men for raping women. I don't understand what
they're not. They don't care. Rape is effectively legal. You can literally rape a woman, and you have a very low likelihood of actually going to jail as a man.
Rape is effectively legal.
It's effective.
What is she talking about? Why is she saying that?
I don't know. I was kind of waiting for the red flags. Her ass get voted off the island.
They like that silly stuff that she's saying. I don't know why she is saying that. Like, Cliff said it happened to him by a girl once. I don't know why she's saying that. Or they say that, and there's a lot of reasons why sometimes people don't get caught, getting evidence and stuff is a thing, but it is definitely not something that is legal, and they do prosecute those people. I think sometimes it's one of those things where it's kind of hard for people to prove it in some cases. So I get why women would be upset, and Martha said because she's effing crazy. I can get the frustration in it, right, and wanting it to be better. Sometimes people wait too long to report. Sometimes people, might take a shower, and I have family members that this has happened to. A lot of, some of them they just didn't report it, because you feel shame and stuff. So it's a lot of sensitive things surrounding that topic as to why some of these guys get away with it, but it ain't because it's legal or because don't nobody want to bust them. Like,
yeah, I don't know what the hell she's talking about with that.
Legal. How many men are actually going to jail for
I
rape?
actually agree with you that in terms of sex crimes, and I don't know how you're peeling out women, because I would even, and again, this has nothing to do with our argument today, but I would even say that people are not being prosecuted hard enough when we're dealing with crimes against children, period.
Yeah,
Talking about
100%.
sexual crimes not being prosecuted
100%.
in this country is a whole other conversation, and you will not get a disagreement with me, but I think that it's wrong to say that it's somehow attached to being a woman when you know that there are so many children that are going through the exact same thing. I mean, the light sentences that are tossed out for pedophiles, it's completely ridiculous.
All right, guys, pause.
But I don't think it has anything to do with the conversation that we're having right now. But I agree with
It has everything to do with it, and you're separating it to make your
time. Please return to your seat.
And let's not
I'm
forget
going
the
to
light
add 5 more
sentences that
minutes to
their
this.
mothers get for killing their kids. Let's not forget about that.
you know what? And that would be a great point to bring up, because we've done news stories where women have killed their children or caused their child's death because they was
and got
high
slaps on the wrist.
Yeah, got slaps on the wrist. No significant jail time at all. What did that one lady get? Like she had like 3 years or something. The majority of it was probation.
Yep. A lady who murdered her child and put makeup on the bruises, thinking that an autopsy wasn't going to be done. She got 10 years. She only did, I think, 4 years, with the other 6 suspended, but with 4 years probation, 4 or 5 years probation once she got out. Murdered her child, an infant.
I'm telling you, it's crazy.
Claim.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Adam. Nice to meet you.
So your claim is, just to be clear, that we live in a matriarchy, right?
Yes.
So I think even you'd agree that on a global level, that's obviously ridiculous when there are countries where people literally are honor killed for like Instagram posts. But even if we're talking about just the US, right? We don't have paid maternity leave. Abortion is illegal in over a dozen different states. And as someone earlier was mentioning, women are overwhelmingly the victims of sexual violence and domestic abuse. So that doesn't seem like a very well-designed matriarchy where women are victims or, lacking power in so many different realms of society on like a structural level.
I just do not think that women are lacking power on a structural level because they can't, which they can, by the way, abort their children. Is that like one of your components? Is that
There's many states where abortion is illegal. Do you dispute that?
I am going to dispute that having a child is somehow something that restricts women in any capacity. Like you're
What
saying
about the
that.
ability to decide what you do with your own body?
I don't believe that I don't believe that murder is something that you should be allowed to
Sure,
decide.
and murder is illegal.
It's actually what you're doing to somebody else's body.
Sure,
So I'm
murder-
pro-life. So
Sure.
the argument that, well, women will only be free if they're able to, kill off their own offspring, to me is
Yeah,
a really
that's a really
extremely off-colored.
well, I guess.
But when they say that they act like women is like a monolith, right? Because there's a lot of women that are pro-life. So they act as if all the pro-lifers are men, all the pro-choice are women. And so for anything that is pro-life, it must be assigned that this is the doing of the men.
If you frame it that way, everyone kind of has to agree with you. But when we're talking about abortion, when 99% take place in the first few weeks, when there's no thalamus, there's no cortex, there's no capacity for consciousness.
All right, the SAN fact check says The brain begins to show electric activity at week 8. 81% of abortions are performed by week 9.
In the fetus that's developing, saying that that fetus that has no capacity to be conscious, aware, anything else, should have the same rights, same bodily autonomy as a woman, that is an obvious, I mean, you're making my point for me. That
You're actually making a
fact that
point that
make this
people
point-
who are, are born with tremendous disabilities should just be killed because of cognitive
I'm sorry,
functions and
I don't remember
ability.
saying that. When did I say that?
The best argument, which
Hold on,
again,
no, no,
this is
You're
sidetracked.
saying that
Let's get back on track.
Kill people with disabilities.
Well, I'm saying that if you're saying, no, I am saying that if you're saying that it's cognitive ability and at what
the
stage
ability
you
to
think.
be conscious, and just so we're clear, disabled people are conscious. They're aware.
Okay. So the best argument that it is a life is the fact that you have to kill it. You have to have a procedure to kill it, right? So you have to intervene on the
there's
develop. Like you
living
said, you
human
called
cells
it,
in it, but
you
it's
called
not
it
conscious.
a developing life.
Sure.
If you have to go into your body and murder it, then
Not
it's
disputing that
murder.
there's living human cells in a fetus.
Again, so we
It's not
could
the
we can just
question.
tack that off because we just have a fundamental disagreement on
Sure,
whether or
then
not
we
a
can
child
talk
is a
about
life.
paid
and I
maternity
don't
leave.
think-
People have been talking a lot about whether you have to be a mother, you have
Yes.
to work. A lot of women have to pick one or the other because in many cases, if you want to have a child, first of all, there's a big gap in your resume, so getting a job after that might be super difficult. And then secondly, even in the process of having that child, being pregnant, especially in the 3rd trimester, and then raising the child where the vast majority of the burden typically is on the mother, the workplace and our system of our economy is not tailored to make that easy for them.
I actually totally agree with you. And this gets
Paid
into
maternity leave,
this,
you agree?
I don't know, actually. I'm agreeing with you that this pressure that you're describing exists for women. And I'm saying that it exists for women because of the feminists that came before who argued for women to enter the workplace. So what you're saying is the solution didn't work and it actually produced more problems. And now we have more problems and we need more governance to be able to tackle these problems. So you're
Any
like,
system
we
that's
need the
forcing
government-
women to make certain decisions, I just wouldn't
it's
call
not
that
forcing
feminism
women
to
to
begin
make-
with.
it's not
Women should have the
forcing-
option to choose, do I want to be a stay-at-home mom? Do I want to work? Do I have some mix of both?
Right.
That's the entire point here.
But you are also making an argument that if you are a woman who does run a business and does have employees, that they should be forced to pay them maternity leave.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so let me
That's
tell
like saying taxes are forced. Yeah, there's certain things the government does to regulate our economy to ensure equality and justice and better outcomes.
Okay,
Yeah.
but just so you know, when you do that, like to a small business
every
owner,
other developed country
so
does.
what you are arguing for is supporting big corporations and taking out the little guys because
I'm arguing for supporting people that want to be mothers and also work at the same
right,
time. The mechanism we do that with, it can be
but
subsidies,
you
taxes.
guys
like-
can't just keep this. You can't say that we can't have the economic. We can't get down to the economics like of what it actually implies, right?
I have an economics degree, and I can tell you if there's a small business that can't afford to pay maternity leave, the government might probably subsidize them and help cover the costs.
The where's the government getting money from? This is
Tax revenue. I mean,
right, exactly. So
we'll
from
see how
us,
Trump's
just to
tariffs
be
work out,
clear, from us, and this is the thing that gets me about all of these debates.
Yeah.
The magic solution that everybody has that we just need to
It's
tax
not
the
magic.
government
Every
more.
other developed country has
Okay,
paid
but no,
maternity
but
leave.
it's not magic as in like the
guess we
money
should go
is
to these
coming.
magical
The
countries.
money is coming from you. It's coming from us. So you're sitting
Yes.
here.
Exactly. And I've had conversations, just with people, they're taxed at a higher rate. People already hate taxes now. Those other places where they had that health care and all those benefits, they get taxed very, very high. Was it like a 50% or some shit? Like, hell no. No. I pay enough taxes. I ain't paying no more. If that's the solution, I say, hell no, we won't go. I don't want that at all. So he's acting like it's a simple solution, and it's not.
I bet
That's how taxes work.
Yes, like we should be raising taxes.
You say what?
I better not see no tax on my check that say maternity leave.
Oh, you better, man. But you know what? Oddly enough, I was working delivery job. I had paternity leave as a man, as a father. I just think it depends on where you work at, what kind of job you have. I mean,
Yeah, it depends on where you work completely.
because some places they even pay the guy, not just the mom, the guy. I think it was like 4 to 5 weeks or something like that. It was significant. And some of these people, you can't listen to them anyway or believe them. Funny thing enough, right? My wife, being a supervisor, she was getting on the women about that because they had a young lady at her job and she was about to have a child. But when it came time for her to leave, she had used up all her time calling off of work. And so she had no time available when it came time for her to have her kid.
So when you say she didn't have any
Okay,
time
and this is
available,
the
was she
entire-
supposed to use vacation time or something?
Their salary, I forget how it worked. They have a certain amount of leave that they have, right?
Okay.
And some people use it up, calling off, showing up to work late and doing stupid crap, and then they don't have it when it comes time for them when they really need it later on.
I can see that.
It's like it's like at any job when you got like PTO, paid time off, and people misuse it. And then when they really need it, they don't have it and they complain.
Oh, well, typical. Yeah, typical.
This is the entire problem, is that the government is already taxing homes times 2, and people
Sure.
are already struggling with what's being taken out of
We're
their
not
taxes.
taxing capital gains properly or corporate profits properly
Sure, you
or
have
high
something
income properly.
that there's a reason that we should be taxing more here, there.
It's an
The point is
efficiency
that the
problem. Don't
reason
you guys
why
want like government
families are
efficiency,
having
maybe bring in more revenue to help
Okay.
women be mothers? Like,
what I'm saying is that you are just creating a cyclical argument. You're basically saying that women want to be able to have it all. Women cannot have it all because the
the
government.
choice to do what they'd like.
Okay, but you're saying women should have the choice to have it all. Okay, so you're
That's
saying
a really interesting way of putting like what do you have it all right now where you're working and you're also a mother? Is that having it all?
No, I'm saying that it's not possible for women to have it all. It is
Okay,
impossible.
what do
and,
you
and,
have?
and that's one of
Whatever
the,
that is what I would want other women to have as well, which is the flexibility
Right, so
to work a job and also raise kids if they'd like.
No, but that's exactly. You guys keep arguing that what people want is more flexibility. So you're acknowledging that right now, with feminism on fire, we are agreeing women are going into the
Feminism on
workforce.
fire, okay.
Like I'm just kind of using a hyperbolic
Okay,
expression.
okay,
Like
okay.
feminism is everywhere. We are arguing that women need to have more opportunities. Women need to have more rights. They've taken that. Now you have the majority of people that are graduating with college degrees are in fact women. Men are committing suicide at a higher rate than women. We're looking around the world.
Feminism also would push for like increased
Great,
awareness
fine.
of men's
We don't
mental
need
health.
to-
So like
that's fine. Great. You love feminism. That's great. We already know that.
Yeah,
We get it.
most Americans agree with me, by the way. that, like women should have
Actually,
paid
I
maternity
think
leave.
culture
If you go
is
issue by
changing.
issue and by values, they might not associate with the term feminism because people like
can't
you have made
major-
it
you
toxic.
can't-
But the actual
The
values
next thing
that
is that you
undergird
will
feminism
move
are
the
extremely
goalposts,
popular.
and then when they begin taxing so that we can account for paid maternity leave for 3 months, which basically means a small business owner has to not have an employee while having to pay months and months and months. Like the person's not there. They're not actually.
Small business doesn't have the revenue to cover paid maternity leave. The government would probably subsidize them to make up the cost.
No, I actually think that the way things were made more sense, where we had an environment where you could afford to take care of children with just one person
you would-
bringing in income in the house.
Is that possible in the current environment?
You can obviously.
When things are going to get way more expensive with these tariffs
Well,
as
when
well,
we
like it's
start-
not going to be easy to afford anything in the coming years.
Is it going to happen overnight? No, but I think we need to be realistic about the fact that the first thing didn't work, right? The entire
What is the first
argument,
thing?
the first thing was women entering the workforce is going to make everybody happier and richer. That was the
The idea is that
pitch,
women
was the
having the
plan.
choice to enter the workforce is better than them being forced to not do that.
Okay.
That's the argument.
Okay, that actually is not the argument at all. The argument was that women would become, and I'm talking about what the feminists got ahead of, and
You
this
can
is why
debate
women
like
women
this
need to be
imaginary
like
Twitter
men.
feminist, but like
It's
right now you're
not-
talking to me, and
it's
that's not the argument.
I'm
that
not
I'm
actually debating an imaginary Twitter feminist. I'm speaking to you, and I have no
Right.
idea why you're becoming increasingly more rude when I'm just rebutting your
because
points that you're
no, you're
bringing
not
up.
responding to my point.
I am responding to your point. I'm saying that you're creating a cyclical argument where you keep saying that the thing that you just did that you said was going to be enough. What we
Right.
actually need is for women to just enter the workforce. Oh, women are in the workforce, and actually
not
we have-
enough. I'm saying we don't have enough
Okay,
because we don't
and
have
I'm
paid
telling you
maternity.
that you're also not going to have enough because you're going to then be complaining when you get that paid maternity leave.
I'm not
because
gonna
you're
get maternity
okay. Well, they are arguing for family paid leave. So
That's even better. Yeah.
okay,
I
so
love that.
you might get.
Do you think
might
fathers
get
should also be
maternity
around to
leave.
help raise children?
I think
He's silly. I had paid leave as a father. I think the easiest and simple solution is just like with insurance or anything else, right? If this is something like the job could go to you and say, hey, if you're someone who is planning on having kids, being married, we understand you may want paid maternity leave, paternity leave. We'll just take it out your paycheck. We will help you, or you can just do it on your own, right? Set aside a little bit of money out of each of your paycheck. And when you save up that amount, you know you good to go. You can get pregnant to have a kid.
Most jobs pay a percentage of your regular bi-weekly or weekly wage.
But I think some people maybe don't work at jobs like that. But I'm just saying, I think you could just plan out your own leave the same way you save up a couple of months of rent in case of emergency, or your mortgage, not a couple of weeks, but months, right? You would save up that money for that in case something happens. So I think that if you know you're going to be going on leave, what is your normal paycheck? You just save the money up. You have to do it on your own. But I don't think the answer is to take it from everybody else, because some people don't even want kids or want marriage, and they're paying into something that they don't even want for themselves.
Right, exactly. That goes back into what I said earlier. Stop having kids and you're not prepared for it.
Exactly. Sour Gummy says it isn't fair that taxpayers have to pay for other people to stay home with their kids. F maternity leave.
Hey, I understand. I wholeheartedly understand.
Flat says, do not take advice from these emotionally erratic victims. They don't even know the meaning. Misogyny is just shaming tactics. Yeah. Oh, Flat earlier said the Victim Olympics or something. That was funny.
Nah, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that's crazy. They voted the guy up out of here. He's kind of irritating to me. He's very smart, but he uses it for evil.
Who's going to work if
Seem like-
everybody
seem
goes
like only
home
one
every
person
time a
made it.
child is
Not
born?
everyone's going to have a kid at the
Pause,
same time.
guys.
You say what?
Seems like only one person made it through the time. Everybody got voted off.
Oh yeah, nah. He made some good points and stuff like that. I don't know if I would say that we don't live in a patriarchy. I think we are existing currently in two different worlds. Okay, does this sound stupid if I think like, okay, patriarchy, I think maybe like politically and stuff, but I think socially, our family structures and the way we operate on that local level, I think is a matriarchy.
I can
Or
agree with
does
that.
that not make sense? I don't know. I think it's just two things going on. Because it's not quite a patriarchy.
I don't exactly know where I stand on that. That's one of those topics. I'm gonna have to sit down and actually legitimately think about.
Yeah. All right, who's next? Oh, we're going on to I think they're gonna do another claim now.
Pause. All right.
Everyone will have a male partner. Yeah, nice talking to you as well. My final claim is that feminism has made things easier for men.
Hi.
Hi,
I'm
I'm
Jenny.
Candace.
Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
You said that feminism is easier for men, or is
It's made things, I think, easier in
things
society
easier
for
for
men.
men.
Yeah. Now men don't have to commit, and they're being offered sex from women for free. So they have to actually effectively do less and be motivated less, because feminism has kind of insisted on this culture of sex and hooking up. And I think that has been a net negative for women.
On good faith, I just want to say I think you're approaching this with like the best interest for women. Like you think that is negative for women and harmful. And I think in some aspects we can agree to that.
Yeah.
I do think that there are some aspects of sex work or OnlyFans or whatnot that maybe men are definitely the huge consumers of. But if we are so concerned with women putting that out for free, it's charged, right? They're making money off of it. Then why are we not putting the onus more on men for being the one that is in control of that demand? Right. So we can take away the supply or, condemn it all we want. But if there's no onus on men to be the consumers of said products, then wouldn't you think that would solve the issue that you're bringing up?
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. And I really get to that. I want to be very clear. When I say that I'm anti-feminist, this does not mean that I do not also criticize men. I think that's something
Okay.
that people get very wrong.
Okay.
1000% agree. I believe the problem was seeded by the feminist movement. I think the sex revolution and telling women, I mean, literally these people were protesting. They didn't have their shirts on. And this used to be just, your grandparents couldn't even imagine this, like women walking down the street and having their boobs out and their butts out on Instagram. And it.
I'm not gonna lie, I did tune into that protest because I was very, very, very concerned about what had those women upset.
Created an environment where men then had to work harder for a woman's affection, for a woman to take her clothes off, sex education in the classroom. There's this huge myth that people were just doing it, like, oh, we might as well teach them because the children are just doing it. Actually, before they introduced sex education, the majority of high school graduates were graduating with their virginity intact. And then within 10 years of sex education, we saw a reversal. So I'm saying feminism actually seeded the problem. And now the problem is bad. And
all right, saying fact check again. It says, according to the CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Survey in 1991, 54% of high schoolers reported having sexual intercourse. That number decreased to 30% by 2021. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they said the number went down, actually.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
Yeah. It's more education.
And it's also bad for men. It's harmful for men to be constantly exposed to pornography and soft pornography. And I think it actually, in many ways, emasculates men.
Okay.
But I would say they are the main social benefactors of that culture because, well, first and foremost, as we're talking about women who have to kind of pick one or the other or try to manage both, and can we have it all? Like, no, you can't have it all. On a day where I really feel like I gave a little bit more to my career, I ache because I go, okay, but like now I feel like I didn't give the same amount to my children. And it's a constant push and pull and it never feels enough. It really doesn't feel enough.
So like to a degree, I think that feminism does benefit men. I think that it allows men to be more emotionally intelligent, allows them to understand what that looks like and also be able to connect with other people, right? But at the same time, there's so much work that feminism has done for women that to say that it benefits men more, I don't think is an accurate statement. For example, Title IX has made it very possible for women to go to college, 600% more so, right? And I think that that is a huge benefit that we can credit to the feminist movement. Though I understand your point though of trying to say that like sex work is harmful for women and more beneficial for men because they're benefiting from it the most. But at the same time, if you think they're also suffering from it, does that not contradict your point?
Yeah, so I disagree on the fact that and we do agree that more women are going to college, more women than men are graduating with college degrees. And despite that, people are saying that we still live under a patriarchy. Women are free to start their own companies. Women are free to pay women whatever they want to pay. Women could hire, and in some cases do hire all women. And so I don't really understand, which wasn't your argument to be fair, the idea that even with all of that freedom, women are still not able to achieve what men are able to achieve. I think college education actually has increased women's stress. And I'm talking about in terms of how expensive it is. And I know you're going to then say, well, the solution to that is we have to then move goalposts. And I'm guessing here.
No, I mean,
but like it
What's up? I can't hear you. Try to say something again. All right. I think Prince is in a bad area. Oh, he dropped out again. For me personally, I think that the patriarchy in its height, I think that people kind of think that it was harder on women and easier on men. I think it held both people to this standard. I think it was a social construct like any other social construct. I think men were held to a higher standard. And I think this feminism, it goes into the what was it, the sexual revolution that they was talking about earlier in this video. People not wanting to get married. I don't think there's men are held to a standard. So I think that's what Candace means by it made it easier on them, is that they don't have to be men no more. They don't have to get married to no woman to get her to have his kids. You know, you just sleep with a woman, you know, he don't have to ask her to marry him. He don't have to do anything. There's no standard no more when it comes to men. And so I'm guessing that's what she means by it's easier on those men.
College should be free. Everything should be free. He thinks.
Well, I think
we just need more free stuff, and obviously nothing's free. We're just going to tax us.
If I could interject,
100%.
I just want
you
to say,
can.
I think the issue that we keep coming back to is that you believe that women would be happiest in a home where they don't have to work, and I think most people in general probably wouldn't want to work anyways. But I think the main issue that we keep avoiding is that this is not an issue created by feminism. This is an issue created by capitalism.
Yeah, so I've heard this argument that it's an issue created by capitalism.
But you don't agree. You think feminism is the greater issue than the
I
system
think that now
needs us
the
to spend
issue
more money to live.
Well, we have to spend more money to live.
Right.
I think in large part because feminists got duped by the government. And I think we just keep further enslaving ourselves to the government. I'm not a person who believes in big government. And yet you find that feminists are constantly like, well, we can deal with the college issue. We just need more government. We can deal with the, needing to have more benefits. We just need more government. So it's like, okay, let's just tax every household 100%. And I'm trying to prevent that. And I'm saying that there was a time in America, and what's aspirational for me is I was, raised in part by my grandparents. They were very happy. They were just, I lived in that environment of what that looked like. And I think for many of people who didn't grow up there, feminism has taught us, and I say this as someone who had to take feminism 101 courses when I was in college, that it was like this nightmare, and people weren't happy, and people were suffering, and women were
suffering.
People, were being forced, and that there weren't actually these things marriages that worked, that the women actually weren't disempowered by being the CEOs of their household.
Well, allowing women to have more choice and freedom and agency to leave.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
I did enjoy this conversation. Very respectful.
That was a nice, respectful conversation. But if people do not think that, and shout out Vanessa Marie says, feminism means we don't have to bow to our husbands and deal with abuse for the benefit of the kids. No thanks. Everybody's not beating everybody, Vanessa. Okay, everybody's not beating everybody. But how I looked at the statement where it says it made it easier on man, I think that goes to some of the complaints when you're listening in on the gender war and people are talking about relationships and they go, oh man, men are not, chivalry is dead. Men don't do this anymore. Men don't want to pay for dates anymore. Men don't want to do this anymore. And I think that standard has been taken away. So henceforth is easier on them. Is not much is required from a man dating and pursuing a woman in the year 2025 versus now. Is it going to be some things as far as money? More money is required to have a family and stuff, but having access to women and having kids and these things, I think is just easier for the man.
I was thinking that a lot of your claims are very contradictory, saying that we live in a matriarchy, that men benefit from feminism more. I would like to understand why, again, you think that men benefit from feminism more?
Basically, because men don't have to commit to women. Men are still able to do what they're doing, and they are allowed to basically step away from all of the responsibilities of what it really meant to be a man and lead a household. And that's in large part, I think, due to the sexual revolution.
I mean, is it really bad that we don't have to give men the chase? Don't they have gratification from chasing us? Like, it's a hunter versus prey situation to me. So I feel like a lot of relationships, especially back then, were based on trying to get to home run like very fast. And now that we have the freedom to not commit and not tie ourselves to one man for the rest of our life, I just don't necessarily think that's bad. I just don't think the revolution has decreased our value. We're not chewed gum. We're people who value connection. And sex doesn't always have to have this deep meaning. It is just connection and intimacy between two people who trust each other. And why do we have to deny women that gratification? Like, men, you say, that are wired to want that. Why not women? Why?
Well, we again, I go back to just our basic biological differences. There was a really interesting book that was done by a biophysicist. He, I think, recently passed away, named Edward O. Wilson, where he just sort of breaks down the biological arguments. Basically, he looks in the wild to see the behavior of animals. His thesis is just that you basically can never beat your own biology. And then he kind of compares it to what we see here as just humans and our social interactions and things that have been abundantly clear when you look at every civilization over time, whether it's from, 400 BC to LA today. What are these habits that you can see that never go away? And people coming together and starting families is one of these things because we are biologically.
All right. See, Val, that's what I was talking about. Men don't have to commit because we get what we want and more being single. That's what I said. I think that's what Candace means. I think it's easier. It is. And then you have women like this woman up here that's like, yeah, like sex don't have to be that. Sex don't have to mean this. Right. And it's not taken seriously anymore. But then that brings us to the whole point where people want to complain because they're not taking sex seriously. And now there goes the argument of abortion. People just having sex, making babies, and going down there and killing them in the womb, of course. Not suggesting they're killing babies that's been born, but in the womb. And so you just have this whole casual sex society where nobody cares anymore. There's no rules. And I don't have a problem with that society. It's the fact that when that society is created, then people then complain about that same society.
Wired to find a family, to settle down, and to have children. And I think when you have women that are going out and they're giving all of the goods up for free.
The goods?
The goods. I'm not going to say, the goods up for free. Men
what if
are
women
not.
want the goods for free from men, and that we are very happy with
certainly
those
do that. And there's
connections. We're not sockeye salmon. We're not made to breed and have families and then die.
You are welcome to do that. I'm just saying that when it comes time for you to find a partner, you may find yourself in a circumstance where men don't value you as high because men like you spoke to, men like to compete. They like to feel like they've won something.
I'd like to deprive men of that because they don't need to have that.
Sure.
That's actually
but you did bring up.
Yeah. And that's what you say, that men are, essentially predatory, and we have the goods that we have to keep from them.
Oh, I didn't mean the goods in a bad way.
But that's such an objectifying way, the goods, the grocery goods.
Honestly, I think that that's just kind of
we don't have value
colloquial
in value
songs
in
today.
Soul.
I think
we have value apart from how many people we sleep with, how many, you also devalue education for women. And I think that's very interesting because you're also a very educated woman. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, this is just like an observation. You devalue yourself a lot.
I definitely do not feel like I'm devaluing myself.
Make him a sandwich?
Yeah. Yes, which is the title of my book.
Yes, feed your men and everything. Feed the people that you love. Because family isn't defined just by...
Yeah. No, KRAR, Bobby. A woman can be sexually pleased, and she has every right to be sexually pleased. I mean, you can be sexually pleased in a healthy relationship or in marriage. You don't have to be sleeping around, getting sexually transmitted diseases and stuff like that, unwanted pregnancies to achieve sexual pleasure. At least I don't think that.
Your partner or your kids, family is community, and you should care about your community. And understanding that, I just don't think you really care about the community that much when you're pushing this rhetoric of devaluing women so much to stay in the kitchen, stay within the homes, and also saying that they're wasting money on college when education is very important. There's a lot of female scientists.
Pause. You've been voted out.
Sorry.
You've been voted out.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
What's your name?
I'm Zola Stone.
Very nice to meet you, Zola. You have very pretty eyes.
Thank you. So you keep talking about OnlyFans and Kim Kardashian, and well, I do OnlyFans.
Okay.
And I'm a stripper as well.
So you're in the sex industry.
Well, I'm mainly a recording artist, but I do that to fund the music.
Okay.
But, you know, you're saying basically that we kind of like devalue ourselves, but at the same time, I'm celibate. I still consider myself a woman of God. And so, you know, not all of us are just out there just, oh, hey, showing the goods, you know, like we do respect our bodies still. So I don't like that you kind of putting us all in one box because of that.
So we have to, in order to have debates, we have to make generalizations. Of course, there can be some exceptions to the rule. But what I'm trying to understand is how can you say that you're not, you know, giving up your body if you are a stripper?
Well, because I said I'm celibate. I still want to get married. I still want to have kids. And for some of us, it's hard for us to have kids. And I've also dealt with sexual abuse since a child, you know, so I wasn't doing any sexual work as a child, you know, and still went through things like that.
Yeah. So I first want to say, perfectly sympathetic to everything you're saying, especially if you come from an environment where you've lived through something when you're a kid, it makes it infinitely harder. And it's actually a reason why so many people turn to sex work, because they don't have that structure at home that gives them, I think, other options. But would you agree with me that if you could, like, that wouldn't
I
have...
went to college for music production.
For music production.
I went to LA recording school.
Okay, so did you decide to be a stripper because of economic restraint or because of freedom?
For freedom, you know, we want the choice to do whatever we want with our bodies.
Okay.
You know, I don't think it matters if you do want to dress how you want to dress. That doesn't mean, oh, you can, you know, sexually abuse or sexually harass.
Okay.
a
Do you
person
think
by
the
what
men
they're
that are
wearing.
being brought into the strip clubs to watch you, do you think that they're walking away and going, I did that because that woman was empowered to take off her clothes? Or do you think that they're actually devaluing women?
No, I
when
get
they
it.
do
I
that?
used to be that hypocrite. You know, I said things that
That is a great question. And when they're having these feminist conversations, they love to act as if, you know, I'm sexually liberated. I am adding value. And Candace asks a great question. Do you think seriously that they look at you stripping, escorting, OnlyFans, and they think highly of you? Ask yourself this: do you think any man going to the office meeting holding his wife's hand, would he rather say this is my lovely wife who, you know, who's a homemaker, or my lovely wife who owns her own, I don't know, dental practice, or I mean, hell, she works at Target, or would you rather, do you think he'd rather say, my wife is she's a stripper, y'all. She got an OnlyFans. And people just make up their own shit. It is weird to me to say, I think all sin is the same. It ain't about judging. But to say I'm a woman of God while stripping because I ain't having sex, like, it's weird. You back, Prince?
That's crazy because
Oh, he dropped out again. His internet is acting crazy. Hopefully he come back.
I said I would never do anything like that, you know? Like, I totally get that. But some people just want to go to the club and have a good time.
Yeah, I think most of the
So-
people who are making those decisions are doing it because they're dealing with addictions themselves. I think you're worth more than taking your clothes off. I think that if you wanted to have a career in music, you wouldn't have to take your clothes off to do that. And I think that it's sad that you've been...
Every story is different.
Every story is different, but I do think that,
you know,
we can make a generalization.
I
about the
was
people
at
that are
that point
coming.
where I was going to college. I was working.
Yo, you're in a good area now. Oh man, I think the internet's still acting jacked up. Prince. I don't think he buys mic.
in 3 jobs. I used to be a nurse.
Now you hear me now?
So you just don't know the situations. You don't know.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, driving through these backwoods, it just won't let me be great.
Oh yeah. Shout out Mimi said these women all young, never been in love, and didn't have a dad or mom in their lives. I didn't have my father growing up. Now that I'm an adult and a mother to a teenage girl, I can say having a man help. Miss Pamela says, you're right at Mimi, make him a damn sandwich. What's up, man? We got Flat and KR going at it in the chat, man. Watch it. You dick police. Yeah, silly. Oh man.
How life is gonna.
Oh man. You wanted to say something, Prince? Now we can hear you.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, brother. I said in the chat when I was trying to get back in that I made it back just in time for the stripper because I knew within the cusp of this conversation one was gonna pop up. I don't know how I told the future, but I knew one was gonna show up.
Yeah, and she's gonna speak from her perspective. So of course she ain't gonna have no issue with it or have no problem with it because you stripping. Like, of course you gonna speak to this or and not have an issue with it or a problem with it. It's like, but
Yeah, she has a bias, like she comes in with a biased opinion.
yeah, I just think it's weird, and hold on.
Gonna turn out. It's gonna be ups and downs, but no, I didn't want to do it. But in my situation and things that I went through, it's something that it just.
But I'm
it
actually
works.
really glad that you said, no, I didn't want to do it. And you were put in a situation where you had to do it, because I think that's really honest. And I think the problem that I find with feminism is that it's a dishonest movement.
All right, guys, pause. It's been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
I'm not judging.
She got voted out because she's delusional.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Catherine. Candace.
You brought up a book about that we're going to biology, and that biology is what we should organize society on based on like what skills men are good at.
I can restate what I said. There is a book, and the argument that's being made is that you can't outthink your biology is the easiest way to say it. So feminism, I would say, is a movement where they're trying to outthink biology, meaning that all we have to do is this, and that, and then magically we're going to be transformed, and that desire within us to want to start a family is just going to like die, or we're going to be happier doing this thing. And I think the answer to that is no.
Right. I would argue that our biology does not have as much of an effect on the things that we choose to do with our careers, with our life choices, as you think it does. Our closest ancestors are chimps and bonobos. Bonobos are matriarchal, chimps are patriarchal. So, and our previous societies have run egalitarian for millennia. It's not been this inherent desire for men to rule a certain way and women to rule another way. It has been egalitarian, it's been matriarchal, it's been patriarchal because there are things that go into effect, like your situation, your personality, that make you better at doing something than just your biology. I know many quiet, nerdy men that would not be good leaders, and I know many strong women, and vice versa. Like, it does not matter as your testosterone, the hormones you emit, is not going to have as much of an effect as I think you think it does.
I totally think it does. And so that's why, getting back to college, since I'm assuming you support women going to college.
Yeah.
Can you explain why there is, when they can freely choose, why there is such a difference in the majors that women choose versus the majors that men choose when they get to college?
Well, I think it's also important to note that things are changing.
Yeah, what up, Prince, man?
Yeah. I'm almost at a fire situation right now.
That boy.
Hey, say, bro, I've been there, done that, bro. One time, my daughter almost burned down the damn. My oldest daughter, she almost burned down the damn house, bro. If it wasn't for me being woke in the middle of the night, bro, we all would have died.
This boy put noodles in the microwave with no fucking
With no
water.
water. How I knew you was about to say.
So it made the plastic milk, of course, and smoke and shit. and the microwave's got the vent on it, so it just pushed the smoke out.
Just blowing out the smoke willy nilly.
Oh man, I'm like, what the hell is you doing? You still making this mistake? He did it before. That's why. Like, he's done it before. Like, how do you do this again?
At least yours happened in the middle of the day. Mine happened in the middle of the night, man. All I heard was that smoke detector chirping away. I was like, "Where the hell is that coming from?"
He heated the shit out of them noodles in the little sauce pack. The powder pack. Like, what the hell, man?
Kids can't live with them, can't live without them. Oh God.
I had to hurry up and bounce. Yeah, man. I'm just back in time. Bella Vega says, I am a nurse, and why in the world would you become a stripper? Probably was a nursing aide. That part did not make sense to me either, Bella, at all. I was like, she was like, oh, I was a nurse. It's like, why would you stop nursing?
To be a stripper.
Yeah.
As if you walking around the hospital in tight fitting scrubs wasn't enough. You just decided to just take it off.
Yeah, that's unless she figured like I guess because nursing does have more hours, right? So maybe make more money in a little bit of time.
I mean, yeah, but you also have at the very least somewhat of a schedule, and I mean, I'm pretty sure she's not working a day shift at a strip club. I'm more than sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think it would tie more into, but even if like with the nursing aid, wouldn't she want to grow in that field and be more respectable? But I'm sure it's tied to her past because she says she comes from having abuse, and that might be the reason why she did that.
Oh, that neck tattoo says abuse all over the place.
Yeah, she got the face tatted too.
Yeah, instant turn off. Instant turn off.
Yeah.
Baby, you got some demons.
Land of Dragon says, why shouldn't women go to college or learn a skill? That makes no sense. Women just make men their retirement plans in this economy. men think women are maids here to serve them. Yeah.
Hey, a lot of the richest women in the United States all got their money from men.
Let's see. Oh, Anthony says nursing is hard work on your feet all day, 12-hour shifts. Many get burnt out and choose to sell. That's a point. That's a good point.
I mean, I'm not a stripper by any stretch of the imagination, but don't you kind of gotta climb poles and do all kinds of knick-knack and paddywhacks? And I mean, wouldn't that be, don't you gotta be fit for that too?
Yeah, but I don't know. But you know what? Many people wouldn't look at it that way. Will you really think about life and the decisions people make? They'll think they're making an easier decision, and it really don't be an easier decision. And you'll tell them like, "Yo, bro, yo, sis, you might as well have stuck with this. You ain't helping yourself out."
Right.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, y'all see me pass out, it's because of smoke. Anyway.
Changing, and there's like many initiatives to get more women into STEM, to get women into higher paying career fields. When women have been kept out of these fields for so long, it's a slow and steady race to get them there. It's not that women are not choosing them. They're slowly learning that this is okay for them to choose. There's more women in STEM, there's more lawyers, there's more women are making up strides to those positions. So it's not like they're sedentary and they're staying in these humanities or arts fields.
I don't think you're being honest. I think like did you go to college?
I mean, I'm in college. I
You're in
think I know that
women aren't, it's not because they're not pressured. It's because when quite literally they say, what are you interested in? Women flock to certain things. They just do. We do. We as a whole do. It tends to be, and this is because we are biologically wired. And even when a child is born, when a woman, like a female a child versus a male child, the girls start speaking faster and they speak more words. Just a fact, right? For the rest of their lives. Like my daughter started speaking, and this is not anecdotal, but I'm giving you an anecdotal example of something that is a real fact. So there's just a biological proclivity there that women like communication. And you see that followed all the way, as an example, into college. Women are drawn toward these careers that are compassionate, emotional, and communicative, which is why you'll see women flooding journalism. That's why even when you see women that are finding success, they are typically in careers that are communicative and compassionate. Women that will say, I want to do psychology, I want to do children's psychology. And so even at the same time that women are saying that they're running away from their biology, so to speak, they are still exhibiting that they very much believe in these determined biological characteristics that I think are something that's just never going to go away.
Right. But I would also bring up that the way that young girls are given dolls, young boys are put in sports. These things that kids learn at a very early age are very impactful in what children like and pursue in the future. It's not simply that I don't think there's a biological gene that women like fashion and men don't. That's why we do see men in fashion. That's why there's actually at the top of all these fashion houses, a lot of men are in successful positions in fashion. The way in which you teach children to explore creativity and to play and what we put women in pink rooms and little girls in pink rooms and boys in blue rooms. That has an effect.
So, and I'll tell you why I disagree. And I know because I had my children back to back that there's a blur here. So I never had to separate them and say, you play with this, you play with that. They were growing up with their toys. I mean, 1 year apart, my daughter and my son, they just are interested in different things. And this is one of the, I think, lies of feminism. And when you actually have children, there may be some exceptional child, but I am telling you, my boy's first word was car. He is obsessed with trucks. He's obsessed with cars. I did not do that. I don't like having to answer his questions about cars. I don't like having to answer his questions about trucks because my biological proclivities are not designed. I'm just not feeling passionate about engineering, wanting to know how everything works. You don't recognize that. And this is, I think, one of the worst harms of feminism, because I was a feminist when I was in college, or I at least thought I agreed with the movement, because you don't have the family yet. So when they make these arguments that you're making, you think that that's real. You think, oh, well, it's just because you're not giving the child the Barbie doll that they don't love Barbie dolls. And that's not a reality. We are just quite literally different.
I'm so sorry. Time.
You know what? I do like that argument, and I say that all the time when it comes to like just gender roles and stuff that we have. I think we're experiencing a time where gender roles are changing because the world is changing, how we do things is changing. But some people will say that, oh, men forced women into this and they made it this way, and men do this and women do this. I think if we rewind time, I think men and women just kind of went naturally into what they went into based off of their biology. I don't think it was a forced thing. I think it just happened naturally. And I also think it's natural that we have these conversations now where we decide as humans, how do we want to go forth into the future? I think it's a very natural thing. Yo, what up? I got my boy T in here, man. What up, man? How you doing? I was hoping y'all see that I had hit y'all up on the Discord. Hopefully we get to do something later on Clubhouse, dog. I don't know though. Hopefully I ain't knocked out or sleeping.
Time is up.
All right, now this is the part of the show where Candace will now choose a feminist to debate for 10 minutes on a claim of their choosing. So whoever she chooses, they're going to come up with their own claim, and then Candace is going to have to debate them.
I am going to choose Jenny to have a further conversation with because I thought that it was a respectful dialogue, and I want people to be able to learn from the differences. And I think she is probably the best equipped person to get that done.
My claim is that I believe feminism is wrongly interpreted as anti-men when it benefits both men and women.
It's a great claim. I like that claim.
Oh man, that's what's up, T-Man. Tell the homie congratulations on the new baby. On the new baby, man. For sure, for sure. Yeah, bro. I might go to sleep earlier so I can be up late and stuff. I still have to decide how I'm gonna do it.
Thank you. Okay. So I think that in today's environment, when you look at the messaging that's coming out from self-proclaimed feminists, it's very much an F men can't do anything, women can do bad all by themselves sort of colloquial messaging, which I think is harmful to men and to women. I have seen examples of people that I truly do think are more old school who don't do that. But I think in 2025, we've landed on the side of this. It is, I think, rising to a level of just being anti-men, which is not what I think it was supposed to be aspirationally.
Okay. In response to that, I would just like to say, I think that in all ideologies and beliefs, there is a spectrum, right? And on either side, there's going to be a radical point of view. I do understand how it may come across as negative when women say things like, I hate all men, or F men this, F men that. But I'm also, as a woman, not going to fault other women for having that perspective and fear, because unfortunately, our greatest predator is men. Our greatest harm does come from men. And therefore, when women have experienced violence from men, when women have experienced oppression from men, I'm not going to fault them for feeling that way and expressing such. And I think the onus does rely more on men for acknowledging that these issues do exist. It is harming women. And unfortunately, a lot of men don't listen to women, and they actually would rather listen to other men. While that may seem like negative messaging, if we can get past the idea of, oh, this feels like it's attacking my character, like I feel like feminism is attacking me as a man, then I think that we can have a much more productive discussion and move forward in making sure that this society is better for everybody. And I do believe that feminism benefits men as well. I think that's also misunderstood and misinterpreted in that when we hear that, instantly we turn off, we don't want to listen, right? But when we look at historically what feminism does, it's actually trying to bring women at an equal level to men, give them the same opportunities and options as men, and also not receive the same judgment that men do for the same actions. And so I believe that when men are exposed to more female role models, when men are exposed to more feminine or feminist leaning women, they actually have higher quality of life. They have deeper conversations that they can have with their loved ones. All the men that I know in my life are feminists. And it is because they are feminists that we all have a beautiful community and beautiful friendships.
Yeah, so I would actually even expand it to say that not only is feminism hostile to men, but it's also very hostile to women. And I think you saw a lot of an example of that today, where there seems to be a reaction when a woman says children are beautiful. It's like, oh my God, how dare you say that, like having a child? And it's like, why is there this instant reaction to people that are traditional? And you see that when we have a society which is really kind of being dominated by what I would call like this hyper sexual character, like of the Kim Kardashian prototype of feminism, weighed against the other extreme, which would be like the Lena Dunham types who are coming out. Lena Dunham's much more the F men forever. Kim Kardashian is kind of the, when I was saying like, come get everything for free, you know, that sort of a model. And I think both of them reject tradition in a way that there's a little bit of hatred there for women who don't want to climb the ladder and work 45 hours a week for a small paycheck and who actually aspire to marriage. They think that there's something intrinsically backwards about that. They think that there's something wrong with women who are wholesome and happy, and they instantly try to problematize that. And I'd say one of the greatest cultural examples of that today was like the feminist attack on Ballerina Farm, which just kind of came out of nowhere. It was so weird. I'm like, we have an example of every feminist on the cover of everything, and it's like, but no, this woman can't have 10 million followers. She's not allowed to have 10 million followers. We have to take her down. And that to me is the greatest example of what modern feminism has become, because they pretend it's about choice, but in reality, they want every woman to enter the workforce and to pretend that they're happy in the workforce from a 9-to-5 job trying to compete with men. And I think if people are being honest, the overwhelming majority of women are doing that because of financial power, not because they're really happy. And that's why they're binge drinking on the weekends. And
okay. I disagree with that. I think that feminism just gives women options. And if you want to be a stay-at-home like wife and you want to be a trad wife, that's fine. Feminism is not, in my opinion, I think a lot of other people agree with me. Feminism is not the belief that you can't do those things and we're trying to convince women that they have to work. I believe that feminism is, if you want to work, go do that. Go get that bag, you know? But if you don't and you want to be a stay-at-home wife, then there shouldn't be consequences for doing that. And I think the whole ballerina farm discussion is kind of highlighting some of the consequences. We see a
But isn't there consequences for all of that? You know, because you can't do everything. And I think that's what Candace was saying before, is that you can't have everything. Whatever you do in your life, there's going to be a consequence to it. Period. You know, I remember talking to this. I had this. He was the manager where I was working at, and he just talked about how he actually took less money. Why? Because when he was making more money, he was working more hours. The consequence of that was he missed a lot of his children's, you know, games, different events at the school. Well, he ended up leaving that job. He took a job for significantly less money, but he was more happy. Why? He had more availability to be there for his family. And it's going to be the same way for everyone, man, woman, or child. It is going to be a consequence. You're going to suffer something in your life. You spend more time at home, less time at work. More time at work, that's less time at home. Okay. And one, you get more money, and then the other, you get more family time. You know, and I think life is just honestly about finding the best balance that you can possibly find.
woman who wanted to be a ballerina but gave up that passion and dream to be a mother. And I don't think that it's wrong to want both. I think there's value in being a mother. I think there's value in having a family, right? I work with kids all the time as a swim teacher. I love kids. But at the same time, I don't want to have to choose between kids and my career path
She
or my
didn't
progress.
choose. And that's another thing, is they just keep rejecting her answering this question 1,000 times. Of course, when you're young and before you have kids, the things that I wanted to do aspirationally has radically transformed. From now that I'm married, it suddenly, everything came into focus. And really, I understand that family is what it's all about. It's like you have your first kid and you change entirely. Your focus changes. And I do find exactly what you're saying, is that even when she herself says, this is what I wanted, I was not forced to give up, you know, that's what I wanted when it was just me in my life. And I went to Juilliard and I did what I wanted to do. And I danced as a ballerina. And then my husband moved to support me as a ballerina. And then I got pregnant. And when you have a child, your entire world changes instantly in a moment. And it's hard to describe that to someone who doesn't have a child yet, because when I was there, I didn't understand it either. So I actually
Joey, sacrifice. Yeah, I think it's always going to be a sacrifice in everything that you do. And I think that the thing that people are not accounting for is time. The reason you can't have everything is because it's literally time. Right? If you could have everything, think about how hard it is, right? I don't know how many people have experienced this, right? But those who have changed careers in their life. Well, if you're married and y'all have children, you have a certain lifestyle that you're living and you want to change careers. But in order to change careers, you have to go back to school. And in order to go back to school, what does that take? Time. And a lot of times it takes extra time that you don't have, because in order to keep your family afloat, sustained, you may already be working 40 hours. Some people work 60 hours. Some people work 70 hours a week. And you need that money, but at the same time, you also need to go to school. Well, going to school takes hours. How many hours out of the week do you have to go to school? That time has to come from somewhere. So how do you have it all? Something's going to have to be sacrificed. You got to go to sleep. You got to eat. You got to spend time with your wife. You got to spend time with your children. You got to spend time with your husband. Spend time with your children. Everybody, you can't beat time. And that alone says that you ain't going to have everything because you simply just do not have the time.
Would have agreed more with you until that moment happens, you don't get it. And so what I'm saying is that to see people constantly try to problematize her life when she's like, I have 8 kids now. It's like, not only do I love kids, I have 8 of them, and I'm cooking and I'm going to school and I'm bringing them with me to Ireland. And the attacks on the trad wife culture, it just shows you that there is fundamentally a hatred for tradition. And I think that hatred is being bred into women. And ultimately, when you find those women at 50 who have chased their careers, it has been my experience, and they don't have family, that they suffer from tremendous unhappiness if they've missed that window of opportunity to start a family.
I mean, I would like to disagree with that point that feminism is hating on the trad wife life. I think there is a misrepresentation of that life that's being fed to people. For example, people like Nara Smith and Ballerina Farm they're social media content creators. That is their job, right? So it's not that they're just a stay-at-home mom. Content creation itself, as I'm sure you're aware, is also a job, right? So they are not actually fully trad wives. They also are working. And on top of that, they are marketing this lifestyle that is not attainable by everybody. It's not feasible. And I think you agree with this too, to be spending 8 hours cooking I don't know, chocolate chip cookies from scratch where you've harvested the cocoa yourself. You know what I mean? And it's not feasible in our current economic system, right? And maybe that's what people want, and that's great. And I don't think feminism is the one that's telling you shouldn't want this. I disagree with that strongly. I think feminism is telling you that if you want to pursue that, that's great. That's for you.
I've never met a feminist that didn't find a problem with the trad wives. And that's my point, is that it's this illusion.
Well, you're meeting one now.
No, because as soon as I said something traditional, everyone rejected. I said, you will get more purpose and
I think that's
joy from raising you get joy from raising a child. And everyone acted like when I said you get joy from raising a child, like I had stabbed them in the chest.
Well,
it's like,
I
guys,
think it's more
shouldn't we just understand that children are it's a good
no,
thing
and
to inspire to children.
Think any of us.
Yeah, let me see. Shout out Bella Vega says, I will say Candace is a bit of a hypocrite. She's basically a career woman with a nanny at home talking about traditional marriage, which she does not have. That I can agree with. I don't think majority of people are going to have what they say this traditional marriage is, because at the end of the day, times are changing, right? There is no way for a stay-at-home mom now to operate as a stay-at-home mom would operate in the past. Okay, you have technology. Do you know at one point in time the kitchen wasn't even a part of the house? At one point in time the bathroom wasn't a part of the house. At one point in time, even when the kitchen was a part of the house, it was a gas stove and the tank was over the stove, and it was very dangerous. House fires were a major thing at that time. How households are ran, how people make money, the opportunities. A lot of people can be women can be a stay-at-home mom and work, what they call work remotely, and stuff. So I think how we operate, I think people have to get comfortable with the idea that times are changing. I think ultimately what is being pointed out in this conversation to me, what I'm hearing is you have people on one side that feel like you have people on the other side, and it sounds like they're demonizing the whole idea of family and just structure, and I think people on the other side saying that, hey, everybody's life doesn't have to look the same and we'll do what we want to do. And you know what? Honestly, I think that's okay.
Here hate kids. I think the point is, it's not about, oh, I've mentioned something traditional and this is the reaction that I'm getting from it. It's that it's almost like you're making an assumption that this applies to everybody.
I am making a generalization,
Right.
and I am
And that's what
saying
people
that
are reacting to.
if the majority of women did not invest time to start a family, women would be miserable. And I think that recognizing that when women start to, the biological clock is real, and women start to recognize that they spend so much
Right.
time trying to climb a ladder and they maybe don't find a partner, and it's harder to find a partner now because, as I said, we have devalued ourselves by giving up sex so freely. I do see that there is an increase in those types of women who are relying on drugs to make them happy, whether they're
Right, but not everybody wants marriage, and not everybody wants a
I
relationship.
think
so-
overwhelmingly
Okay.
women do want the safety of a relationship and a happy home. And I think that feminism lies to you and tells you that you don't until it's too late. And that is
But-
what I do a
but-
lot of work trying to get women to understand.
Yeah, no, and I understand that you're
I'm
trying
sorry. I'm sorry. That's time. I do apologize.
You have people who are coming because they want to create a social media moment. And these are always, I've done so many events, the most frustrating things because nobody's learning. And I also think it's something that women that are young need to come to terms with, or they're going to end up on the other side and be miserable and be popping pills like a lot of women who bought into the illusion of feminism did. So it was frustrating, but also people can see like how many times I just wasn't allowed to speak.
It is important to interrupt conservatives, specifically conservatives like Candace, because once you do that, their fallacies will show themselves.
Today, it felt like
Yeah, Bella, you're absolutely correct with that. Studies do show that even when both partners are working, women do still do majority of the housework, and it does cause issues within the house itself.
one conservative, 19 cisgender mainstream feminists, and the weird queer person just kind of hanging out. We absolutely are part of the feminist movement, and I hope the mainstream gets that one day.
I think that Candace.
I told y'all that girl, she came there to push her. What she said she stood for queer feminist movement or whatever it was. She just came there to push her own agenda. She was not on topic at all. Even in her summary, she's still on it. She just came there to push her own agenda, man. She could care less about what the topic was.
Herself is a great example that you can do both. And when you have a society and a culture that encourages women to do what they want, how they want, in a way that is safe and healthy, you will see that women can do it all, as she said, and be happy. I don't think that you have to choose between having kids and having a career. And I think that is like a fundamentally misleading argument.
I guess I would just say we all agree that sandwiches are good. We just disagree on who should be making them.
I don't care what none of y'all say. I like Candace, man. I think Candace is cool. I like people with difference of opinion. I don't agree with everything Candace say, but I can understand why people push back on her constantly. But I like hearing different people's opinions, man. And I love that Jubilee does these conversations. And so if y'all like to look at stuff like that, definitely check out Jubilee, Jubilee, and they do that. I think it's cool that they introduced the SAN fact check into the show, which is very interesting when they're talking and they're arguing points and then they come with the fact check. It's very, very interesting. Anywho, man, I want to say appreciate everybody that came through, that thumbs up the video and liked it, whether you're watching it live or on the replay. I appreciate all the support and chilling out with me, man, to be a part of these conversations, getting in the chat and joining the conversation. There was a couple of battles going on in the conversation. In the chat, I noticed it went a little bit religious for a minute. Not sure how that started, so I'm gonna have to go back and read over that. Man. Oh my gosh. Man, shout out to all of y'all. There's so many people. There's so many people to name. I don't even know if I can do it all. I see Brian, Mawa, Zoe, Lauren, John, Tommy, Toxic, Brian H, Chris Bridges, The Truth Untold. Shout out to y'all. Forgive me if I miss anybody. Joey Welsh, the YouTube agent. Shout out to you. Avica. Shout out to you. I said Lauren. Bella Vega, shout out to you. Pat, Tammy, My boy Prince of Petty, shout out to you. T, Amir, Chrissy, Monster, Miranda, Kira, Lando, Iron Man. I think I said Zoe, Antonia, Amir. I said Amir. Jesse Lee, Buffy Robinson, Cassie, not Cassie from the Diddy trial, of course. Jennifer, Casey, Alvin. Shout out to Sandra, Lauracita. Who else? Just seen Loke. Look, Bryce, George, Nathaniel, Edward, Young G. Shout out to Trinity, Jody L, Envy, Anthony, Land of Dragons, XAVI. Shout out to you as well. Trash NATO. Y'all have some interesting days. Quick and easy, handyman. You know what? Some people have names on here. I have to be careful. Shout out to Sunny Night. Some people have names on here that if you read them out, they typed it in a way that if you ain't paying attention, you'll read it and you actually said something dirty. Shout out to KRAR. Shout out to Miss Pamela. Shout out to Listen. That's Caleb. Shout out to Gia Genda. Shout out to Mimi. Shout out to Julian. Shout out to Jacob Maryham. I think I got everybody. I think some people already up top. Shout out to Dankers. Shout out to Black Man 903. Shout out to Maryham. Shout out to Ostis. Notes Math. Shout out to Sunset. Hunter Lee. Flatbush. Shout out to Val DeVille. Shout out to, I think I said Cliff Fowler, Penny Hall, Destiny. I think I got everybody. Shout out to Envy, Connor, Flock 53, the Gravy Seal. Shout out to Rero. I'm always laugh when I read the word gravy from now on after that shit with Shannon Sharp and the girl said she wanted the gravy baby. Shout out to Miss Fancy Pants. Shout out to Vanessa Marie. I might have said the name already. Shout out to DJC. Shout out to Junior 707, Tropical Man. Tropic Cam. Barbara Brantley. Shout out to Naomi. Shout out to Roxanne. Shannon Cochran. I think I got everybody. Shout out to Tones. Shout out to KM. Shout out to Jason Matka. Shout out to XM X-Man. I said X-Man, I think. Shout out to Mark Vale. Shout out to Jen Newman. Miss Pamela. I think I'm repeating some people. Shout out to Dank Bomb. I said that one. I think I got everybody, man. Forgive me if I missed everybody. Now I try to call everybody's name out like I used to, but since more people coming out, it's kind of hard to say everybody's name. But I always say everybody's name because I want to say that I'm thankful for y'all. It means a lot to me that when you have people and we can get online and we can talk to each other, have conversations, be respectful, laugh, talk, argue, debate with each other. It means a lot, and I appreciate it. I love it. So shout out to y'all. I'm about to head out. I do not believe I will be doing another live today, but I definitely try to go live every Saturday. And sometimes I do it on Friday, but Friday, 4th of July, out looking at fireworks. So I didn't go live Friday night. So it's just one live, but catch me during the week. I might do another one. So anywho, I appreciate you all coming through. It's definitely all love. What's up, Mr. Reaper? How you doing, man? How you been? And shout out to Saptamita. I hope I said your name right. I hope I didn't butcher it. Shout out to Jack as well. What's up, Jack? I'm ending the show and I was shouting everybody out and saying appreciate them and thank them for being here. That's what I was doing. We've been on here for some hours at this point. This is the end of the show. So I was shouting everybody out, telling them I appreciate them and it means a lot to me. But the replays will be available and everybody can check it out what we were talking about, and you swipe left and you can read the comments as the conversation was going on. Anywho, I'm out. This is Risky Behavior ENT. I am your host, Mr. Diabolical himself, also known as Beware the Messenger. I will catch you all at a later date. Appreciate y'all. Feel free to thumbs up, subscribe if you want to come back and hang out with me on another day.
Risky behavior.